class of people who are going to make a lot of money through AI, and then the rest of the people, they're going to lose jobs. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think this is one of the reasons why also Amini exists and why we say we're building sovereign data infrastructure for the Global South. Our entire goal is to make sure no one is left behind. There are different layers to technology. There are different layers to creating value. Also, the extraction, when it comes to historically, as a region, we've been extracted at two levels. On one side, if you look at the AI value chain, a lot of our youth who is technology native, who sometimes has studied computer science, is left at data labeling roles at the bottom of the value chain, where the least value is created. We also been extracted in a different ways, where a lot of our data is being extracted for free to train those systems. So for me, I think we always speak internally about the things we want to make sure we do so that we lessen the impact and the extraction of the technology, and we don't really go into very similar models than we had during colonization, where we want to make sure our countries are equipped, they understand the risks and the challenges that are coming to us, and they also know how to build that resilience backbone for their countries. And for us, if we can support that transition for the 4 billion people in the Global South, this is where we win.
Well, Kate, you're moving forward and you're active in more than 25 countries. So you're at a point as a founder where you're really scaling up your business. So what does that look like in the next couple of years?
For me, it looks like building in more markets, and making sure that the talent we bring in the company understands deeply the markets in which we're operating. We want Amini to really be a representation of the Global South. We have employees from everywhere, from the Caribbean, from Latin America, Brazil, the Philippines, and we want to continue being, showing that you can build a company doing good in the Global South in all these many markets that look different from the first look, but are actually extremely similar. So when we succeed, I think you see Amini being the biggest distributed cloud company in the Global South. And that's what we're working towards too.
So that's what success looks like for you.
Yes, and impact as well. We always say that we won't be rich by the billions of dollars we've made, but by the billions of lives we've impacted.
Kate, if you could go back to when you started this, could you give yourself any advice that, might help you when you started on this journey?
I would probably tell myself that the journey is going to be hard, but I have to stay focused because it is all worth it. I make a point always, and I've made a point in my career quite a lot to pay it forward and just make sure that I am not just a model for the next to come, but I also support the next generation as much as I can. And I think sometimes when you're in the trenches, when everything becomes hard, you feel like the world is falling apart, which I think is the case for many founders out there. You kind of just forget that. And I think I would tell myself to just really stay focused on that, because yes, the journey is hard, but I'm only going through this so I can pay it forward and give those lessons to others to make sure that they avoid making the same mistakes I've made myself.
Thank you for listening to The Interview. You'll find more in-depth conversations on The Interview wherever you get your BBC podcasts, including episodes with Google's CEO Sundar Pichai and Julia Gillard, former Prime Minister of Australia, plus many others. Until next time, bye for now.
From the BBC, that was The Interview.
Good morning, Manitoba, and hello, Winnipeg. I'm Mercy Marcusa. This is Information Radio, and we're live in our CBC Studio 15 in downtown Winnipeg. Thanks for coming along. The morning show on CBC is on until 8:37 a.m., and you might be on 89.3, 990 a.m. on the app or even on YouTube, where you could be watching this morning. We have a shift in the weather. Hot weather is going to make way for some rain and thundery activity. So in Winnipeg, that risk comes later this afternoon and tonight, a high of 29 degrees with humidex 34. So as always, going to be really, really sticky before the rain. In Brandon, the risk of a thunderstorm is late this morning, 10 to 15 millimeters of rain, your high 24 with humidex 29. And then up north, sunny early this morning in Thompson and a high of 30. And with humidex, you're going to be around 33 is what it'll feel like. You also have a 30% chance you're going to see some showers this afternoon. So welcome to June 2nd. Let's say hi to the team. Corey Funk's directing the show and covering the commute. Abby Adiemi Tony, the senior tech, also will be covering weather on air today. And there is Mr. Darren Marash, who's producing our YouTube stream. Say hello there, please, or comment on stories if you wish. Let's go to Heather Wells, 2 minutes to 6, and she has developing news today. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, planting trees as a community rebuilds. Today marks 1 year since wildfire destroyed more than 200 homes in Denair Beach, Saskatchewan. That is just west of Flin Flon. Brooke Kindle's family of 5 has moved 5 times since they lost their home. We're going to hear an update from them. And Manitoba politicians have finished their spring legislative sitting and aren't set to be back until late September. The 3-month session featured tax measures, accusations of racism and bigotry, and proposed social media ban and more. So we'll hear all about it and what passed coming up in our next local news at 6:30.
All right. Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Heather's with us throughout the morning, of course, and news anytime online at cbc.ca/Manitoba. Well, we're going to start the show talking about huge boxes full of bikes and other recreational gear. They're showing up in neighborhoods across the city of Winnipeg, and they're there for you to use for free. We're going to hear all about the initiative. In addition, in the second hour of the show, we're going to be taking you inside a circa 1978 trailer where a Winnipeg researcher is capturing audio stories of neighborly gratitude. It's called Chatterbox. It sounds really lovely, and we'll hear all about it.
On cue. Jennifer Lawrence is an incredible actor. I mean, she famously beat Meryl Streep for an Oscar back in 2013. But even with all of her success, Jennifer will tell you why not rehearsing and never taking an acting class is actually the key to her success.
I don't rehearse. I try to just keep everything as raw and real.
Q with Tom Power. This morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland. And on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm Martina Fitzgerald. We begin in Ukraine, where Russia has launched one of its largest aerial assaults of the war. At least 15 people have been killed and dozens injured, including several children. The attacks targeted Kyiv, along with Dnipro and several other eastern Ukrainian cities. Kyiv officials say Russia unleashed 73 missiles and more than 600 drones. The bombings follow threats from Russian President Vladimir Putin. He promised retaliation for Ukrainian strikes on a dormitory in the Russian-held Luhansk region. Since a brief ceasefire expired in May, Russia has hit Ukraine's power supplies and infrastructure, while Ukraine has stepped up attacks on oil facilities inside Russia. Both countries deny targeting civilians. Despite an agreement between Israel and Hezbollah, there is fighting in southern Lebanon this morning. The deal would see a de-escalation, with Israel agreeing to stop its strikes on southern Beirut, and Hezbollah would stop firing on Israel. The CBC's Willie Lowry is following the latest developments from Jerusalem.
While the frenetic pace of attacks has slowed, the Israeli military and Hezbollah have continued to trade strikes, despite the U.S. brokering a partial ceasefire between the two. Lebanon's state-run national news agency saying that Israel hit several areas in the south, including in the town of Debin. Meanwhile, sirens sounded in northern Israel this morning from a suspected Hezbollah drone. The group says it's carried out attacks on Israeli tanks in the south. On Monday, after Israel threatened to hit Beirut, U.S. President Donald Trump stepped in, speaking by phone with both Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and intermediaries for Hezbollah. On social media, Trump said, quote, "There will be no troops going to Beirut, and any troops that are on their way have already been turned back." The U.S. president went on to say that Hezbollah has also agreed to stop its attacks on Israel, Lebanon's embassy in Washington confirming the Iranian-backed militant group would refrain from carrying out further attacks. Joel Rayburn, a former U.S. diplomat, says Trump managed to spare Beirut while allowing Israel to continue its operations in southern Lebanon.
He's trying to give the Israelis enough room where they can take military action to defend themselves, but without necessarily going all the way to the heart of the Hez problem, which is in southern Beirut.
Some in Israel are criticizing Netanyahu for yielding to Trump's demands. Far-right National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir implored Netanyahu to say no to Trump. Willie Lowry, CBC News, Jerusalem.
Canada-U.S. Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc is in Washington. He'll be meeting with his American counterpart about the Canada-U.S.-Mexico trade agreement. Jameson Greer signaled to Congress on Monday the U.S. will maintain tariffs on Canadian goods. Janice McGregor joins us from Ottawa. Janice, LeBlanc and Greer are finally meeting. What are expectations?
Martina, because Dominic LeBlanc's been under fire for not getting as much face time with the Trump administration as his Mexican counterparts, the most important thing about this meeting might be that it's actually confirmed and happening. But it's not an official negotiating round, so the prospect of any specific result by end of day may not be realistic. More interesting might be who he met with before heading to Washington today. Yesterday, Natural Resources Minister Tim Hodgson joined him for talks with representatives from Canada's oil and gas industry. The readout from this meeting talked about how maintaining preferential access for Canadian energy is a priority in the upcoming CUSMA talks. And there are voices, including just yesterday, Pierre Poilievre's, calling for Canada's resources to become leverage in tariff negotiations. But with Canada's refinery capacity limited, threatening to put an export tax, for example, on oil shipping south, well, that could be risky and push energy prices for Canadians even higher.
Yeah, Janice, Donald Trump just made some changes to sectoral tariffs on Canada. What adjustments were made?
Yeah, by presidential proclamation again late last night, they've lowered the tariffs payable on certain agricultural machinery, construction vehicles, and other industrial equipment, combines, bulldozers, forklifts, that sort of thing, from 25 to 15%, depending on what it is and where it comes from. Foreign companies that use U.S. melted and poured steel and aluminum are now eligible to qualify for a new 10% duty rate for their products. It's another push from the White House to restart or build new American mills and smelters. These changes are temporary, time-limited, adding again to the complications and the uncertainty of the Trump tariff regime. And they aren't concessions to foreign governments like Canada. They're about giving relief to American firms that have been struggling with inflated input costs from the tariff war.
Thank you, Janice.
You're welcome.
That is the CBC's Janice McGregor in our Parliamentary Bureau. We are waiting to hear more about Ottawa's plan for artificial intelligence. CBC News exclusively obtained a draft of the federal government's AI strategy, which is expected to be released this week. It includes new laws to protect Canadians against the risks of AI. In Mexico, human rights groups are raising concerns about their government's use of AI. As the CBC's Jorge Barrera reports, there are fears the law is being used against journalists and political activists.
It means that artificial intelligence can now be added to sort of the big tool set that is used to limit freedom of expression.
Jan Albert Hudson is Mexico representative for the Committee to Protect Journalists. He says a new artificial intelligence law adopted by the state of San Luis Potosi is a new threat in a country where journalism remains a dangerous occupation.
Purposefully, in our opinion, vague. It can easily be used as a tool by repressive state governments, municipal governments.
A mother and daughter were arrested for creating, quote, simulated content that harmed the, quote, public reputation of an unidentified victim. The two were linked to a Facebook page called the San Huicho Times, which posts AI-manipulated memes critical of the San Luis Potosi government.
Es muy curioso la rapidez.
Luis Gonzalez Lozano is a San Luis Potosi lawyer. He said the state government rushed the AI law through with little input before it was adopted in mid-November. They created a crime to provide excessive protection for public officials, says Gonzalez. He is part of a group that submitted a complaint with Mexico's Human Rights Commission. They argued the law could be used to target everything from political memes to journalists using AI to protect sources. The commission filed a complaint against the law with Mexico's Supreme Court on constitutional grounds. The court could take a year to make a ruling. Jorge Barrera, CBC News, Mexico City.
Police are expected to give more details about a deadly shooting in Pelican Narrows, Saskatchewan. One person was killed, another was hurt. The gunman was arrested after an hours-long active shooter alert. Officers had been looking for a man dressed all in black with his face covered. The Cree Nation community is a 5-hour drive north of Saskatoon. There is a push in Quebec to ban the sale of energy drinks to minors. The measure is spurred by the tragic death of a teen 2 years ago and would make it the first law of its kind in Canada. but not everyone is on board with the plan. Allison McCormick explains why.
I just have one first period so I don't sleep through it.
Alexi Tower gets a boost of caffeine from her energy drink each morning to keep her alert throughout the school day. The grade 12 student in Fredericton says the drinks are a popular choice.
Everyone in class drinks them. There's at least 10 people in my class this morning drinking them.
But a movement in Quebec is aimed at curbing access to young people following the death of a 15-year-old. 2 years ago, Zachary Miron died after consuming a single energy drink with his prescribed ADHD medication. Last month, the Quebec Order of Pharmacists recommended stores remove energy drinks. President Jean-François Desgagnés says the evidence is clear.
ADHD drugs are stimulant. They can increase the heartbeat and the blood pressure. It's the same thing with the caffeine. And when those two things combine, it can be very harmful.
Family Prix quickly removed the drinks from all of its 455 pharmacies in Quebec and New Brunswick. Jean-Christophe Caron is the company's vice president of marketing.
And we've seen in different provinces up to 24% of teenagers taking medication for ADHD. So that's a very high number.
The Canadian Beverage Association says energy drinks shouldn't be singled out when there are multiple caffeine sources available and more evidence-based discussion is needed. The New Brunswick College of Pharmacists says it supports the move. Doctors Nova Scotia has been championing a similar youth ban for more than a decade. Allison McCormick, CBC News, Fredericton.
That is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Martina Fitzgerald. This is CBC News.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us here on Information Radio. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is CBC 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app or on YouTube this morning. We're the hot spot in Winnipeg in the province right now where it's 18 degrees. And the cold spot is Churchill, just 3 degrees. But hey, we're all above zero. And so we should be for this June 2nd. It is cycling season for sure. And coming up to start the hour, huge boxes full of bikes and other rec gear are popping up in neighborhoods all across the city of Winnipeg. And they're there for you to use for free. We're going to find out about the initiative. Also to national news, the latest in the conflict between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon is something you've just been hearing about on World Report. We have a special guest this hour to dive deeper into what is happening there and the rising tensions. So stay with us. In a moment, local headlines from Heather Wells. .6:11 the time. Heather, what's making news this morning?
Well, some Brandon police officers are now wearing body cameras while on patrol. Professor Christopher Schneider at Brandon University has studied the use of these police cameras. He says evidence is inconsistent, and because of privacy rules, the footage from those body cameras is typically not shared publicly. We're going to hear more about how they're being rolled out in Brandon. And a proposed expansion of a wind farm near Saint Leon has some people in that area concerned for the future of their community. A town hall on the proposed project is being held tomorrow in Somerset. So we'll hear about that as well coming up in our next local news at 6:30.
Heather, I was in some garden centers yesterday and then the day before, sort of. And it was almost like a Saturday Night Live skit or something.
Why?
Because everyone was like, for all the workers in the afternoon, it's quiet, right? We're off in the afternoon because we come in so early, so it's quieter. And they looked like yesterday was Monday, and they looked like they got hammered over the weekend, with crowds. Man. So I was overhearing in one of the garden centers, two of the employees talking, and one guy's hair was kind of frazzled, and he's like, "What happened here?" And the other person's like, "I don't know. It was crazy. They just came in, and the tomatoes are mixed with the flowers, and this stuff never got watered, and I don't know." And then the other guy goes, "There was a period of about 15 minutes. I don't even know what happened."
That's so funny. Chaos, right? As gardeners just kind of flood into these stores.
And then there was another garden center I was on the phone with, and they said, "I'm sorry, one of our trucks broke down. It's mayhem."
Wow.
Yeah, I think everything just sprouted out with this heat and now the garden centers.
It's so funny because you think of gardening as this nice, calm, peaceful activity, but apparently.
So you're the one that has to deliver the soil and help people figure out the difference between a dahlia and I don't know, a sunflower. Anyway. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to have some mixed conditions today in the weather. We have some heat and we have some rain. And Abby's here to tell us about it. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Marcy. We're starting with another bright one. It's a clear start across the province. We're going to see this morning of stark contrast across the province this as we start this Tuesday with heat warning still holding things down in the northern part of the province. While down south, just keep a close eye on the sky for potential afternoon thunderstorms. But here in Winnipeg, we're starting the day. It's clear outside. Temperatures already hovering near 18 degrees. Expect a beautiful and sunny day ahead as we climb all the way to a warm afternoon high of around 29 degrees today. The winds will remain light and breezy out of the south, and we'll see more clear conditions overnight. Well, for the southern regions in the Pembina Valley, the Westman, the Parkland, the Interlake region, we're already seeing temperatures near 9 degrees in the Brandon and Dauphin area, while for the Gimli area, we're looking at 13 degrees there. And then in the Pembina Valley region, we're seeing 18 degrees. All the regions climbing close to 29 degrees. Then we track it into the north where we have that major heat event as it continues to impact a large swath of the northern region. We're talking about the Par, Flin Flon, Norway House, all the way towards the Thompson area. And we'll see morning temperatures close to the 30s and even surpass the 30s this morning before it begins to give to some kind of relief in that part of the province. And outside of the heat, conditions are more stable around Gillam to Dooley Lake as you travel towards Churchill this morning, though we're tracking some foggy conditions there with temperatures around 4 degrees in the Churchill area. But for Winnipeg right now, we will be around 18 degrees before we climb to about 29 later in the day.
All right. Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Abby Adeyemi, and now Corey Funk.
Quiet commute out there so far. Haven't heard of any major issues yet, but if you're walking, you're biking, you're driving, you see some, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number 204-788-3093.
Well, the weather is warming up. A lot of people tempted to hop on a bike and hit the trails to the nearest ice cream shop, and why not? And the Winnipeg Trails Association is here for that. In fact, the team has come up with a new way to make it easier for people who want to hop on a bike but don't have one. They're called gearboxes. Executive Director Anders Swanson is up early and here to tell us what this is about. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Marcy.
What's a gearbox?
A gearbox is it's a way of making it easier to share equipment. I don't know if people have been paying attention to what Winnipeg Trail's been doing over the years. We've been doing all kinds of stuff related to breaking down barriers to transportation and recreation. For example, we do a mobile ski library where we bring enough skis for a few hundred people an hour to go skiing in the middle of nowhere and build a trail. We've been doing Cycloopia, which is about getting adaptive equipment all together in one place so people can try it. Adaptive equipment is for people who maybe have different abilities and who might need different type of, let's say, gear in order to ride a bicycle. And we deployed that in the middle of a park. We've used everything from U-Hauls to my truck to trailers, etc. And then we're finding that other people are getting this idea of community shared recreation equipment and seeing that what we could do is stash this stuff in different places. So essentially what we're doing is we're designing in a kind of really special way different shipping containers, and depending on the use or the local site, popping these up in different cool places where people want to, I don't know, ride a hand cycle. And we've even sort of expanded that to things like gardening.
Expanded it to gardening how? Like, are you putting gardening tools in there and stuff too?
Well, what we've really got heavy into in the last 5 years, ever since that big ice storm, is actually tree planting. So Winnipeg Trails has been planting trees along trails. And for that kind of thing, we've done so many pop-up, volunteer-run tree planting things on the floodway, for example. We do quite a few of those at Grant Park. We're We have a partnership with Grant Park High School, and we grow thousands of trees in a little nursery inside the courtyard, and then an outside space where we invite people to come join us.
Okay, but regarding the equipment, it will be in some of those containers too.
Yeah, exactly.
To the bikes equipment and things, I know that you've done the skis and such in the past. I think this is a first for the summer equipment. Is that right? And how many of these pop-up, trailers or containers do you hope to put around?
Yeah, right now there's enough that I'm losing track of them, I guess. But there's yeah, we've got 4 going, and
Great.
Then we're kind of looking for other community partners who are interested, or at least throwing it out there. They're all being put into pretty heavy use. It's been pretty successful so far since we started doing it. But one of them we've got in sort of the North Exchange. Right away, we're starting up again the regular drop-in adult cycling lessons, which are extremely popular and very, very fun. So for people who haven't learned how to ride a bicycle, we have a couple dates this summer too, where we're doing Cyclopia again. We're trying to expand that program, and Cyclopia is really neat because those are really big, bulky equipment, basically to make it possible for people to ride a bike who don't.
So I'm looking at some containers that they kind of look like metal sheds, shipping containers, but smaller, right? Big boxes, and people are getting bikes out of them. You mentioned that you could put up more than what you already have if you have community partners. So what do you need out of a community partner if someone says, you know what, I have, I don't know, a property or a piece of land, or what's involved if you're going to put up one of these free lockers for people to come and take things?
So far, every school division phys ed coordinator I've talked to is super interested in this. So it's something where there's community center, school, park, things all sorted together that people would want in one space. So those make for a really good location. We're getting really used to moving shipping containers around. Our organization brings bicycles in from the Netherlands by shipping containers. So we started that years ago.
And where do these bikes come from, Anders?
Well, the ones that they don't necessarily need to be our equipment too. So we've filled them with ours, and some of them are we got multiple hand cycles that are part of programming from Accessible Sport Connections Manitoba.
Okay.
We've had large double tandem trikes donated by Children's Rehab Center that they weren't being used, or they couldn't fix them up, or they're past their service. We got them from local community bike shops, for example, that had extra.
Got it. What should someone know if they're going to see one of these lockers around town and they want to pick up a piece of equipment for free and use it? What does someone need to know about how it's going to work?
I think the easiest way is to just follow Winnipeg Trails, because again, I think the next connection point will be the adult cycling lessons. And you'll get connected to Cyclopia, for example. There are already people have tried the concept at Assiniboine Park. If people saw the skiing stuff we did there in the winter, so you'd look for that. But let's not talk about the winter right now. That's ridiculous.
Right. So people shouldn't be left with the impression if they see one of these containers that they're just going to go up, open it, and grab a bike and use it. There's a little more involvement than that.
It's not like a bike sharing program in that sense. It's like a bike sharing program for organizations or large groups.
Yep.
To be able to run programming, and that's kind of what makes it a little bit special. But we might get there too. I mean, Winnipeg sorely needs a bike sharing program as well, like Montreal and some of the bigger cities have in Canada. But this is a little bit interesting because of especially the certain types of bicycles and the way this stuff can get used.
What difference have you seen gearboxes make for people?
Oh man. Obviously the adult cycling lessons. So I don't know how many hundred people have done those over the years. Viscerally for me, when we did them in different locations around the city, which kind of started this, there's a lot of moving around to make stuff happen. But getting a group of people together who are riding the bicycle for the first time as an adult, you just watch sort of a level of stress. Some people are, for example, nervous about not having done it. Watch over them. When we did Cyclopia, where we had to bring a big box container and drop it in order to make the hand cycles accessible. I think my favorite thing there was just a gentleman with one leg riding a bicycle for the first time, getting to try a hand cycle. I got to ride a tandem as a pilot for
Just watching the joy.
someone who can't see
Wow.
and who hadn't ridden a bicycle for 30 years.
Yeah.
So lots of
Personal stories.
personal stories. Yeah.
Lastly, briefly, because my next guest is waiting to come on, but I just, if you do know, what are you doing with the $100,000 you just got from the province for the project?
Multiple of them. So
It's going to help you have more of these.
exactly. So
Yeah.
that they're closer to where people are. So they don't need to travel to Assembly Park, downtown, Grand Park, places where we had them, and expand the program and try and get them, just like our winter program, make winter fun near you, winter or summer fun near you.
More accessible. All right, Anders. Well, thanks for getting up and telling us about it. And we certainly do have the weather for it. So appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks.
That's Anders Swanson with us live this morning on CBC, Executive Director of the Winnipeg Trails Association. Follow them, check out their social pages if you want to learn more about these gear boxes. And of course, they're looking for more community partners to put up even more of them around town. It is 6:24 a.m. That weather we're talking about is 18 degrees in Winnipeg with a high of 29. We are expecting a chance we're going to see some afternoon showers and increased cloudiness this afternoon and possibly a thunderstorm as well. But we're looking for more later in the day for Winnipeg. It's going to rain earlier if you're out west. Well, tensions are high in the Middle East right now, as you've been hearing on World Report this morning. The Israeli military over the last week has expanded its ground offensive in Lebanon in the war against Hezbollah. Israel has also threatened airstrikes in the southern suburbs of Beirut. The escalating tension over Lebanon is sending ripple effects throughout the region as the U.S. and Iran react. Renan Levine is an associate professor of political science at the University of Toronto, following Middle Eastern politics closely, and he joins us to talk more about this. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm ready for a bike ride.
Oh, I know, right? You were listening to that. Let's turn to serious matters here. How is Israel explaining the current military action?
Well, what's been going on now for a number of weeks, arguably for several decades, is that the Israel-Lebanon border has not been peaceful. The fighting has very rarely involved the Lebanese government, but groups, and in the last couple of decades, most prominently Hezbollah, an important ally, arguably a proxy of the Iranian regime, periodically likes to shoot drones, rockets into northern Israel, and Israel would obviously like that to stop. And in the last ceasefire agreement to end the Iran-US-Israel war, there was essentially a loophole left in that would allow Israel to continue to fight Hezbollah, and Israel used that loophole as Hezbollah continued fighting and firing to push its troops further and further into southern Lebanon, to create a buffer zone, to try to eliminate the weapons stockpiles and Hezbollah's ability to easily fire weapons into northern Israel and hopefully restore some degree of normalcy. But yesterday was far from normal.
U.S. President Donald Trump said on social media yesterday that he had obtained promises from both Israel and Hezbollah that they would cease attacks. As you've been alluding to, what do you make of what Trump had to say in those claims from him?
Well, honestly, as an American who spends much of his time trying to figure out and explain U.S. government behavior, Trump is often an enigma, because sometimes he really does have the information and the leverage to get different competing sides to agree to stop fighting. And sometimes he's blustering and bluffing and making claims that don't quite reflect the realities on the ground. And sadly, I don't know exactly which category it falls in, but ever since the ceasefire was announced, there still has been a little bit of fighting. And so there seems to be a big difference, of course, between ceasefire and zero fighting, and ceasefire and 3 or 4 drones and rockets, and 3 or 4 reports of Israeli army shelling positions in Lebanon.
What is the impact that the evolving conflict between Israel and Hezbollah will have on peace talks between the U.S. and Iran in the long term, in your view?
That's a great question, because what's going on in Lebanon is explicitly linked by Iran to the current negotiations they're having with the United States. Iran is insisting that any agreement they reach for a ceasefire has to include Israel and Lebanon. And so what's going on is 100% linked. And much of what we saw yesterday, with at least threats of much more escalation in fighting, has what we scholars like to say is a brinksmanship game, that both sides are, or all sides are saying, look, you don't believe us that we're willing to walk away from the table and start fighting? Watch. We are ready and willing to start fighting again unless you agree to these demands in this ceasefire. And to be frank, right now, the side that's having the hardest time making this credible commitment that it's willing to go back to war is ironically the United States. Iran doesn't seem to believe Trump if and when Trump says, I'm willing to resume bombing Iran again.
Thank you for your analysis, Renan. We really appreciate your time today.
Hope you have a great day and a chance to go for a wonderful bike ride. Sounds like it's going to be a great day in Winnipeg.
Take care. Renan Levine is a professor of political science, live with us on Zoom this morning at the University of Toronto, offering his perspective on what's been developing in Israel and between Israel and Lebanon. If you want to hear more, of course, there's analysis coming up on World Report. National and international news is at 7 o'clock here. We have local news at the bottom of the hour. Your commute this morning in Manitoba has been pretty good. We haven't heard anything on the commuter line, but you can call Corey about the highways or what's happening in your community or town or in the city streets of Winnipeg. 788-3093 is where you can reach us on that commuter line. Also, still ahead on the program this morning, we have business news. Crystalie Ramlakan is going to be joining us also live and via Zoom, as she does each and every morning. And today, I always like to have a quick little sneak peek. We're going to be talking about Canada-U.S. Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc, who is meeting the U.S. President, the President's trade czar, rather, today. So that'll be a critical meeting. We're now less than a month before CUSMA is going to be renegotiated. Hopefully, the CUSMA review coming up in July. So stay tuned. Crystalie's report on the preview of this follows your CBC News from Manitoba.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 6:30, it's 18 degrees in downtown Winnipeg. It is going to be a steamy one. We start with sunshine, then clouds move in this afternoon. Risk of a late-day thunderstorm, showers this evening. Today's high, a breezy 29. Some Brandon police officers are now wearing body cameras while on patrol. The rollout is starting with 12 frontline officers, and the goal is to have 65 members outfitted by the end of this year. Jason Dupuis is an inspector with the Brandon Police Service.
We get complaints come in that are proven to be frivolous. Now, this will be a positive because we'll be able to look at the camera right away and say, no, this did not happen, or it did happen, now we have to look into it further. So it's going to be I think it's going to be a very, very positive.
The cameras will be visible on the front of officers' uniforms. Officers will be required to have them active during public encounters. Brandon police say the cameras will help gather more robust evidence while keeping officers accountable. A proposed expansion of a wind farm near Saint Leon has some people in the area concerned for the future of their community. Swan Lake Wind, a partnership between Swan Lake First Nation and Vancouver-based Interjex, hopes to see the project get provincial approval this fall. Sarah Mazur lives beside the place where the wind turbine could be built and worries it will disrupt the tranquility of the land, as well as the memorial cabin built for her mom.
If it's this big windmill that's being built right in our backyard, I just feel like we should have a say with stuff that's this size.
Interjex says its proposal includes between 30 and 35 wind towers, each about 120 meters tall. It is hosting a town hall tomorrow in Somerset. Brooke Kindle's family of 5 has moved 5 times since losing their home in Denair Beach last summer. Today marks 1 year since wildfire destroyed more than 200 homes in that community just west of Flin Flon. The Kindles are back in Denair Beach, living in a camper trailer parked in a garage they built over the winter. Brooke Kindle says the area is a flurry of activity as people start rebuilding.
Every time you look outside, there's cement trucks, delivery trucks. It's really exciting to be in that place. It's a bit hard when you're not one of the people that's going to be getting a home soon. But we also, at least we were able to pull off building the shop.
The community is marking the wildfire anniversary today. Students who used to or still live in Denair Beach will be planting trees. Manitoba politicians have finished their spring legislative sitting and aren't set to be back until late September. The 3-month session featured tax measures, accusations of racism and bigotry, a proposed social media ban, and more. The provincial sales tax on prepared meals is being eliminated starting July 1st, along with snacks and soft drinks at grocery and convenience stores. That is one of the bills that passed. The NDP government says the cut will save the average family of four about $100 a year. The opposition Tories argue it's not enough to make life more affordable. At least 16 people have been killed as cities across Ukraine came under intense Russian aerial attacks overnight. 100 more are injured. Explosions in Kyiv, where officials say at least 4 people died. Ukraine's military says Russia fired more than 70 missiles and 650 drones. Kyiv and Dnipro were the main targets. Officials say there were 2 waves of attacks over the course of 4 hours. Meanwhile, Ukraine's military says it has struck a Russian oil refinery east of Crimea. Clashes continue between Israel and Hezbollah in southern Lebanon despite an agreement to de-escalate attacks. U.S. President Donald Trump announced the deal on social media, saying Israel would halt strikes on Beirut and Hezbollah would stop its attacks on northern Israel. However, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says attacks on Beirut will continue if Hezbollah keeps up its assault. Trump is under pressure to end the fighting in Lebanon, which Tehran says is a precondition to ending the U.S.-Iran war. You can hear the latest national and international news coming up on World Report at 7. In Edmonton,
the final whistle goes. It's victory for Canada in the rain in Edmonton.
The Canadian men's soccer team beating Uzbekistan last night in a friendly game at Commonwealth Stadium. The final score 2-0. This is one of 2 Canadian pre-games ahead of the FIFA World Cup. Team Canada plays its opening game at the World Cup on June 12th in Toronto against Bosnia. You can find more news updated throughout the day. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right. Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Now let's get into this regional forecast, which, as Heather alluded to, includes some rain. Abby?
Yes, it's a day of active weather across the province. Heat warnings still continue for the northern regions. We're talking about areas around the Park, Flin Flon towards Norway House, and then you swing towards the Thompson area. You'd see highs today close to 30. Some areas might even surpass 30 degrees. While for the southern part of the province, we're bracing for this mix of sun and clouds and some showers and a risk of thunderstorms. So it's a day of like mixed weather. It's going to get hot at some point. We're seeing foggy conditions as you travel into the northern parts of the province. For the south, it will be humid, so be prepared for that. Winnipeg right now, temperatures hovering around 17, 18 degrees, depending on where you are. Some breeze coming from the south. It's going to stay sunny for most of the day before those clouds will roll in, and then we get close to our high of 29. But the humidex I'm seeing here will be close to 35, so be prepared for that. Then those showers will roll in later tonight without risk of thunderstorms to come. From Morden towards the Headingley area, we're seeing temperatures around 12 degrees and sunny, warming up to 28. Also risk of afternoon thunderstorms in the forecast. In the Westman region, Brandon is sitting at 9 degrees with some sunny conditions, warming to 24. A good chance of showers also in the forecast. Dauphin towards the Roblin area, we're seeing sunny conditions, and 7, you get to 26 today. Gimli's at 13 right now. You get to 29. Then we go into that northern part of the province where we have the heat warnings with temperatures climbing towards 30s, and then it's going to moderate later. The powerful influence saying 14 degrees there. We're looking at about 11 degrees in the Thompson area, warming up to 30 degrees also today. Lynn Lake is at 11. You only get to 21. Gillam at 12. Sunny conditions there. You get to 26. Tudula Lake is at 5 degrees. Cloudy conditions only warming up to 10, while Churchill is seeing some foggy conditions at 3 degrees. Steady temperatures really going to stay around this 3 degrees for most of the day. So it's more like a warm day with heat warnings up north and then down south with just that risk of thunderstorms that we might get to see later in the day. Winnipeg right now, sunshine already making its way outside. We're warming up to 29 today.
All right. Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Corey Funk.
Got a call from Jeff with a G on
Jeff
the
with a
commuter
G.
line. Hello. So let me know about some construction happening. It's on the far north end of McPhillips there. So it pretty much runs right from the north perimeter, going southbound on McPhillips down to about Story. That is construction. I was looking on the city's website there. So that construction started on the 25th, and it's actually expected to last all the way until mid-September. And that's they're going to be doing construction on that section of southbound McPhillips on different lanes all from now until then. Right now it's the curb lane. That's going to change. But there will always be one lane open, says the city, but it's slow going. He said yesterday he was going through there. So just heads up there, southbound McPhillips at far north end. It's going to be slow going for the next few months. If you have any other updates for me, if you want to have questions about any construction you're seeing out there, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. If you're walking, you're biking, you're driving, let me know. 204-788-3093.
My big meh of the morning goes to Corden, right around Kenniston, heading westbound, pretty much all the way through past Assiniboine Park and sort of deeper and right before it turns into Charleswood, like all the way past the zoo. If you are trying to go that way, forget it, because people are trying to turn left on Kenniston or right on Kenniston, and you lose, two of the middle lanes, and then you have to shimmy over. And the lines, because that light is already kind of dreadful, there's no turning light. The lines yesterday were just insanity, and the traffic wasn't even that busy, and it was taking a long time. I mean, for Winnipeg standards,
right?
We're always spoiled, but
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so
okay.
meh. That's my meh of the morning. Don't say I didn't give you nothing.
It's a new segment from Marcy. You expect it every day around 6:39.
Getting grumpy. Okay. Abby just said in my ear that someone has called about a goat, 3 horses and a goat on Highway 8.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
also very
watch for them.
Okay, that's my meh in the morning.
Also very Manitoba.
That's my meh of the morning.
Crystal Lee Ramachan's here with her business report. Save us from ourselves. How you doing?
I'm good, Marcy. I'm not just meh.
All right, let's talk about Canada-U.S. Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc, who will meet with President Donald Trump's trade czar today. That's the title they use. What are we expecting?
Yeah, so LeBlanc is traveling to Washington to meet with U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer. So official trade talks between our countries have yet to begin, despite that July deadline for a mandatory review of the Canada-U.S.-Mexico Agreement on Trade. So the U.S. and Mexico concluded their first round of negotiations last week, and further discussions are scheduled for later this month with them. And they discussed issues related to things like autos, steel, aluminum, and economic security. Now, Canada and Mexico have also been talking separately. And this CUSMA review sets up a 3-way choice for each country to make eventually. So they can renew the deal for another 16 years, withdraw from it, or signal both non-renewal and non-withdrawal, which would trigger an annual review that could keep negotiations going for up to a decade. So Greer has suggested the Trump administration is unlikely to just rubber stamp a renewal. So both Canada and Mexico are preparing for lengthy negotiations. And CUSMA is important because it has shielded Canada and Mexico from the worst impacts of Trump's tariffs. So the current 10% global levy does not apply to goods compliant under the Trade Pact. But of course, we know Canada is still being slammed by separate tariffs on sectors like steel, aluminum, automobiles, and cabinetry.
And I always remind listeners at this point that CUSMA is where we start to get a little bit more, lean in a little bit more, because that's what covers a lot of our manufacturing goods here in Manitoba. Let's talk about American companies controlling a large part of Canada's cloud infrastructure. What are we talking about this morning in regards to that?
Well, 3 big U.S. tech companies control the vast majority of Canada's publicly available cloud infrastructure. And that's according to a new report from the Canadian Anti-Monopoly Project. So Amazon, Microsoft, and Google hold 85% of public cloud market share in Canada, which is much higher than their global average of 66%. Now, this comes ahead of the government's national AI strategy that is going to be released soon, which is expected to include measures targeting AI sovereignty. And the report says there are political consequences to being dependent on big U.S. companies. And it says dependence is a sovereign risk as well as a competition problem. Now, a draft version of the government's AI strategy obtained by CBC says the government acknowledges that data center and cloud options in Canada are mostly foreign owned. And it says it will take significant investment to overcome reliance on foreign providers. And since 2021, the federal government has spent almost $1.3 billion on cloud services provided by U.S. companies, with most of the money going to Microsoft.
And before you go, let's stay with another tech story because Anthropic is racing toward a Wall Street debut.
Yes, that's right. So the artificial intelligence company is moving toward going public. It's just the latest chapter in its meteoric rise from a little-known research lab to one of the leading AI companies in the world. So the company says it has submitted a confidential filing with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission for a proposed initial public offering of its common stock. So Anthropic says it has also raised $65 billion in private funding that will push its valuation to $965 billion, a whopping number that makes the 5-year-old maker of the Claude chatbot one of the most valuable startups in the world.
It's hard to wrap our head around these numbers, isn't it?
It is, yeah, that these companies can build up such capital in such a short amount of time.
Yeah. All right, Crystal, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Marcy.
Each and every morning live via Zoom on CBC, we join Crystal Ramlicam with her business news. Well, it is 6:44 a.m. on 89.3 FM, 990 a.m. on the app and on YouTube. Last week, if you were with us, then you heard we did a live show from Niverville, which is just about 20 minutes southeast of here in Manitoba, just highlighting how fast that community is growing. Well, one of the things that we learned there as well is there are a lot of different artists that call Niverville home, specifically musicians, and we wanted to highlight some of them. Niverville has their fair coming up. They're going to have some of the live performers locally doing their fair. Just in a couple weeks here in June, but also they're expecting the Trews to be playing their fair because they've booked them, which is very cool. But we have pulled Niverville's own Jordan St. Cyr this morning. This is Fires on CBC.
Remember how you told me that life may not be easy, and everything that I need you've already given me. I remember how you told me I can trust you completely. So why am I doubting when you prove that you'd fight for me? You've walked me through fire, if you're in this with me, I won't be afraid. When the smoke billows higher, oh, winds higher, and it feels like I can barely breathe, I walk through these fires. right by your peace. I'm living out the victory. Doesn't mean I won't feel the heat. You've walked me through fire. Price of my redemption. Lord, how could I question when you prove that you died for me? You've walked me through fire.
Pretty, isn't it? From Niverville, originally, now residing in Tennessee, that's Jordan St. Cyr. He's a Christian gospel singer, and he has won multiple Juno Awards. Last week, we did our live show from Niverville. If you have an idea where our community studio could be next, let us know where. I know I've had some calls for Winnipeg Beach, so we'll see if we're coming for you sometime this summer. But you can always direct message us, or you can email the show directly at radio893@cbc.ca.
On the topics that matter, your voice should be heard.
It looks like this is maybe a one-day blip when farmers across the province need hot and dry.
Radio Noon is where you can voice your take.
In general, it's harder to find a job even if you're educated.
I'm Marjorie Dowhouse. From 12:15 to 1 p.m., Radio Noon opens the phone lines on one important topic.
When I was 5 or 6, my parents gave me seeds and helped me plant them. That was probably close to 70 years ago. And here I am still gardening.
It just brings everyone together. Radio Noon's call-in segment, 204-780-0893. We want to hear from you weekdays on CBC.
Well, there's some sun streaming into downtown right now, as Abby and Heather both mentioning the forecast. We are expecting showers, but not until a chance of them late today, this afternoon, and then showers this evening with that risk of a thunderstorm. So most of the day is just going to be hot. Our high again today is 29 degrees. In Winnipeg right now it is 18, and in Brandon it's really sunny already as well. It's 8 degrees, but you're expecting it to cloud over sooner. And showers begin this morning with 10 to 15 millimeters and a high of 24. Up in Thompson, partly cloudy, 11. You'll have sunshine and a high of 30 today. And like Winnipeg, you have a 30% chance of showers a little bit later today. Well, it's a busy week in Ottawa. It seems every party has a different focus, though. The Liberals moving ahead on trade talks, as we've been sharing with the U.S., and new measures to combat hate in Canada. The Conservatives are locked in on affordability. They're calling for a closer look at signs of a recession. On Friday, you might recall, a technical recession was the term that was coming up officially. And then there's a handful of MPs on all sides of the party lines who will be vacating their parliamentary seats, which means more by-elections this summer. Ryan Tumulty is here to sort through it. He's a political reporter with the Toronto Star. Good morning, Ryan.
Good morning.
So let's start with Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, actually. He said Friday, and then he repeated this Sunday in a letter to the Prime Minister, he wants an emergency parliamentary debate on the economy. What's the strategy?
Yeah, I mean, I should update that he has actually been turned down on that request by the Speaker. But, I think what he is trying to do is highlight that the Liberal management of the economy is not going as well as people might assume based on the fact that, Mark Carney is a Bank of Canada, Bank of England governor with a lot of, economic expertise. I think attacking the prime minister's economic record is really central to the Conservatives' hopes at turning things around in terms of where the polling sits. So they're going to do that anytime they get. And this was an opportunity for them. Like you said, StatsCan says that we are technically in a recession. I don't think that means a lot to Canadians, but the unemployment numbers do. And I think a lot of Canadians are struggling right now. So I think that's what this push was about.
The Prime Minister, meantime, yesterday on another topic, gave an update on efforts to combat anti-Semitism and hate in Canada. We heard a bit on World Report, but for those who missed it, what's new on the file?
On new in terms of the file, not a lot. I think, he spoke at a synagogue in Toronto, and I think coming to the community and really saying this is a real problem, I want to address this, I want to help, was important. And he was very frank in that speech about the issues in front of him. He did say, that he did announce that a new council that he has established, a council on equality and inclusion and rights, will be formally established. And he announced who is going to be on that council and sort of what they're going to focus on. But beyond that, there was really not a lot new. He talked about the hate crime legislation, which is working its way through the Senate. But not a lot has changed just yet.
Let's talk about MP Stephen Guilbeault leaving last week, resigning from the Liberal the Liberal cabinet and resigning from Parliament, rather. It means the riding's up for by-election this summer, but it's likely not the only one. How many by-elections are we thinking are coming?
There could be 5. None of these MPs have formally resigned yet, but most of them have indicated that they intend to. So Mr. Guilbeault is the first one. He's got a riding in Montreal, Laurier Ste. Marie. Right next door to his riding in Rosemont St. Patrie is Alexander Boulerice. He's an NDP MP. He's announced he intends to resign to run in provincial politics with the election set for this fall. Jonathan Wilkinson, of course, is going to be Canada's ambassador to the EU, which leaves his North Vancouver seat open. And then in Toronto, Nathaniel Erskine-Smith has announced he intends to step down. That leaves his riding of Beaches East York up. And then just last week, another MP, a Bloc MP, Simon Savard Tremblay, announced that he is stepping down to run provincially in his riding, which leaves his riding of St. Hyacinthe Bagot Acton up for grabs. So it's a lot.
I can't do the math fast enough to know how that's going to affect or shift power in Parliament potentially.
Yeah, I mean, my suspicion is we'll end up basically where we are. But certainly, if the Liberals were to end that by-election cycle down 3 seats, they would lose their majority status. They'd be back in a minority. Obviously that is a concern from that, something they don't want to see. I think of the 3 seats they hold, the only one that is in any real danger, I think, is probably Toronto, the Beaches East York seat. And even that would be a big lift for the NDP to try to take it back. It's a seat they've held before. On top of that, for the Liberals, Alexander Boulerice's seat in Montreal, that is a seat that Mr. Boulerice himself has really held. Yeah, I wouldn't say that he's, it's not an NDP seat. It's an Alexander Boulerice seat. And so certainly the Liberals think they have a shot there. So do the Bloc. And so that's going to be a really contested race when it comes.
So lots to watch, but we might land in the same place. All right, Ryan, thank you very much for being with us as always.
All right, thank you.
It is right now 4 minutes to 7 o'clock. That's Ryan Tumulty, political reporter with the Toronto Star. Still ahead on Information Radio locally here from Manitoba, live from downtown Winnipeg. Inside a circa 1978 trailer, a camping trailer. We're going to take you there because they're helping people come together one story at a time, and they're on the move to hear your stories. We'll tell you all about this coming up on Information Radio. Also in the next hour of the show, some teachers are walking away from the classroom in an effort to focus on their mental health, and some never return as the profession continues to change. We're going to hear from one of those teachers coming up on the show after 7 o'clock. Right now, it is mostly sunny in downtown Winnipeg, but it's cloudy in other parts of the city. It's 18 degrees. Our high today, as I've been mentioning, is a hot 29 with humidex 34. This afternoon, increasing cloud and a risk of a thunderstorm late this afternoon and pushing into the overnight. 788-3093 if you need us on the morning commute. Gil called the commuter line and said there's a goat and 3 horses on Highway 8 about 15 kilometers north of Clandeboye Road. So watch for that, not what you expect. They're apparently right now running and moving together as a group and off the highway. So just be careful because obviously animals on the loose. And if they're yours, you'll want to go get them. It is 3 minutes to 7 o'clock. And let's go to Heather Wells now for what's happening and developing in news this morning.
Good morning. Well, people from Denair Beach, Saskatchewan, just west of Flin Flon, are marking 1 year since wildfire destroyed more than 200 homes. It displaced people from Denair Beach and nearby Peter Ballantyne Cree Nation. A year later, a flurry of activity as construction starts. Denair's deputy mayor says today's event will be somber but healing. And Manitoba politicians have finished their spring sitting of the legislature, and they aren't going to be back until late September. The 3-month session featured tax measures, accusations of racism and bigotry, and a proposed social media ban. We'll hear which bills did get approved coming up in our next local news at 7:30.
All right. Thanks very much, Heather. Heather Wells live from our news center this morning. For details on any of the stories she mentions or others, you can always go to our website at cbc.ca/Manitoba. National and international news on World Report is coming up next. Stay with us. It's 1 minute to 7 o'clock on a bright, sunny, hot Tuesday, June 2nd.
Today on The Current, I'm Mark Kelly.
It is very clear that this is the most powerful technology we've ever had.
The tech journalist Joanna Stern wanted to understand the promise and pitfalls of artificial intelligence. So she spent a year using AI in every part of her life. And she has some wild stories to tell. Coming up on The Current. The Current, this morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland. And on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm Martina Fitzgerald. Russia has carried out one of the largest aerial bombardments of its 4-year war on Ukraine. Dozens of missiles and hundreds of drones were launched, hitting the capital Kyiv and numerous other cities. While the Ukrainian Air Force was able to intercept most of the attacks, at least 18 people have been killed with dozens more injured. Anna Cunningham is following the latest from London.
A sustained night of attacks. Ukraine's air defences unable to bring down all the Russian drones and missiles launched. Plumes of smoke from fires seen rising across the capital Kyiv. Similar images too in Kharkiv, Dnipro, Mykolaiv, Sumy and Zaporizhzhia, just some of the many areas Russia targeted. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky had warned of this attack. In Kyiv, residents went into underground train stations, many with sleeping bags, tents and camping chairs, prepared for the hours ahead.
That was an awful night.
Oleksiy Goncharenko is a Ukrainian MP in Kyiv. He says no one slept.
A lot of destruction, and again, a lot of civilian infrastructure. It was heat.
In the eastern region of Dnipropetrovsk, by daylight, emergency workers dug, freeing one woman alive from the debris of her collapsed apartment block. In northeastern Kharkiv, a key facility of Naftogaz, one of Ukraine's energy companies, was hit. The Russian Defense Ministry says it targeted Ukraine's defense industry sites, responding, it says, to a strike on a dormitory in the Russian-held Luhansk region of Ukraine last week, which killed 21 people. Ukraine denies it carried out that attack. President Zelensky has renewed his calls for the US to supply Patriot air defense missiles, saying without them, these attacks will continue. Anna Cunningham, CBC News, London.
There is fresh fighting between Israel and Hezbollah in southern Lebanon, despite an agreement to de-escalate attacks. This man says he has hope because every war ends. He's one of thousands of displaced Lebanese sheltering in tents near Beirut's waterfront. An agreement posted on social media by U.S. President Donald Trump would see Israel halting strikes on Beirut. In return, Lebanon says Hezbollah will stop its attacks on Israel. However, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says attacks on Beirut will continue if Hezbollah keeps up its assault. Canadian e-commerce giant Shopify is coming under fire for its ties to Kenneth Law. The Toronto area man recently pleaded guilty to aiding 14 suicides in Ontario by mailing poison kits to the victims. Thomas Dagla brings us the details and the reaction.
One of the things I often think about is his laugh.
David Parfit lost his 22-year-old son Tom to suicide 5 years ago. His is one of 93 deaths Kenneth Law has admitted responsibility for in an Ontario court.
He caused a devastation that is difficult to describe.
Law sold poison online, with his websites hosted by Shopify. Crown prosecutors revealed the Canadian e-commerce giant transferred nearly $150,000 to Law over a 3.5-year period beginning in 2020. Proceeds from the sale of lethal products he coaxed vulnerable people around the world to buy. In Chicago, Jerry Cohn's brother Benji died in 2023.
Say if Kenneth Law got arrested maybe, a month earlier, maybe Benji wouldn't have been able to buy anything.
Shopify previously told CBC News it terminated the seller's online stores once the company was notified of policy violations. University of Ottawa law professor Jennifer Quaid doubts Canadian laws could hold the tech giant criminally liable.
The way the law sits right now, an entity like Shopify can say, look, we didn't know about it. As soon as we found out about it, of course, we removed it.
As for Law, he remains in custody and faces prison time when he's sentenced later this year. Thomas Dagg, CBC News, Toronto.
Canada-U.S. Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc is in Washington for meetings with his American counterpart, Jameson Greer. It's a one-day trip to discuss the critical Canada-U.S.-Mexico trade agreement. Greer signaled to Congress on Monday the U.S. will maintain tariffs on Canadian goods such as steel, aluminum, and automobiles. LeBlanc is pushing to launch formal talks on CUSMA. The deadline to renew, review, or withdraw from the pact is July 1st. President Trump has made changes to some of those sectoral tariffs. They target heavy manufacturing, with some industrial and agricultural equipment dropping from 25% to 15%. He also amended certain tariffs on metals, including steel, aluminum, and copper imports. The changes will take effect next Monday, June 8th, and will remain in place through the end of next year. A major federal response to rising anti-Semitism is on the way. Prime Minister Mark Carney has laid out his plans to combat the record spike in hate and anti-Semitism. As Rafi Boudjikanian reports, Jewish advocacy groups say immediate action is needed.
Canada's civic compact is failing Jewish Canadians.
Prime Minister Mark Carney putting to words a stark reality, saying hate against Jews has reached a surge never seen since the end of the Second World War.
Anti-Semites in Canada have fired bullets at Jewish schools. They have thrown firebombs at synagogues.
Statistics Canada reports hate crimes against Jews in this country nearly tripled from 331 in 2020 to 920 2 years ago. Last month, a man was charged with shooting an imitation firearm at people outside 2 Toronto area synagogues.
We need concerted action immediately.
Noah Shak is the CEO of the Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs. He says wars in the Middle East involving Israel lead Jews in Canada to be scapegoated.
Nothing can possibly ever justify the targeting of Canadians with hatred, discrimination, and violence.
Shack wants to see stronger enforcement of existing rules like the criminal code, while Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre blamed the Liberals for the problem.
Liberals have stoked this anti-Semitism by saying one thing in a synagogue and then saying exactly the opposite in a mosque.
New legislation to address hate-motivated crime and propaganda is before the Senate now. Carney also announced the mandate and membership of a new advisory council identifying drivers of anti-Semitism and evaluating the government's work on the issue so far. Rafi Boudjikanian, CBC News, Ottawa.
The United Nations is warning the world to prepare for the return of El Nino. The World Meteorological Organization says the weather phenomenon could be the strongest in decades. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres.
The science is clear. El Nino is arriving on our doorstep in the coming months with 90% certainty. The world must treat it as the urgent climate warning it is. El Nino conditions will pour fuel on the fire of a warming world.
Guterres says the impact of this weather pattern will hit harder and travel farther. The UN's weather organization says as El Nino kicks in, it will drive up global temperatures and increase the risk of extreme conditions. El Nino happens when warmer ocean temperatures push heat and moisture into the atmosphere. Voters from across Los Angeles are heading to the polls to choose their next mayor. It's a tight race, with the incumbent fighting to hold onto her job against a contender from TV. Steve Futterman has more from Los Angeles.
He is a former reality TV star who is running to be mayor of the nation's second largest city.
I did not want to be a politician. I did not want to run for mayor of Los Angeles. I have to.
Spencer Pratt's campaign has focused on last year's deadly Palisades fire, a fire that destroyed his home and thousands of other structures. He has accused the current mayor, Karen Bass, of incompetence.
While our lives were literally burning to the ground, Mayor Karen Bass was in Ghana.
Bass was in Ghana as part of the U.S. delegation attending the inauguration for that country's new president. The optics of being in Africa, though, have hampered her campaign.
Obviously, January 7th was horrible. It was one of the worst moments of my life to not be here when my city needed me.
And that's not the only fire issue Bass has had to deal with. Months before the Palisades fire, she reduced the fire department budget by $17 million. Yesterday, Bass questioned Pratt's qualifications.
I'm not sure he's ever had a job other than reality TV. I know he has no idea how the city government is run.
There are 14 candidates on the ballot. The top two will advance to November's general election. The latest public opinion polls show Bass on top with around 26%. Pratt's in the battle for second place. Steve Futterman, CBC News, Los Angeles.
That is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Martina Fitzgerald. This is CBC News.
Good morning, Manitoba. How you doing out there in the sunshine? Another hot day. We're going to have some showers probably late today, tonight. Thanks for joining us live from downtown Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is CBC's Information Radio. You're on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and on YouTube. Well, today is Tuesday, June 2nd, and I'm mentioning the date because we're going to hear this hour from a lifelong Denair Beach resident about what she's thinking 1 year after wildfire devastated her home and how her family's recovering.
It's a house, but it was more than a house. It was where we spent our life.
We will talk to her this hour, and as you know, Denair Beach in Saskatchewan, but very close by Flin Flon. And when we were up there with CBC, people said, remember, we're like one community. Also, we're going to talk about teachers having challenges with their mental health. A lot of them are walking away from the classroom in an effort to refocus on their own health. Some never return. We're going to hear from one of those teachers and hear more about the challenges. Some of those were reflected in a recent survey that was conducted by Manitoba Teachers Society, you might recall. So let's right now go to Heather Wells. So she has details and updates on other stories that are developing this morning from our news center. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, up to 500 people lined up early for the chain cutting and official opening of the new Princess Auto on Panet Road. That road now with the honorary name of Princess Auto Way. Our CBC's Megan Ketchison is there, and she tells me the first person in line actually got in line at 8:30 last night. People are eager for this new store. We'll take you there coming up. Some Brandon police officers are now wearing body cameras on patrol. Professor Christopher Schneider at Brandon University has studied the use of police cameras, and he says evidence is inconsistent. We'll hear about that as well in our next local news coming up at 7:30.
8:30 last night?
8:30 last night.
Wow. I wonder what they're going to buy.
I know.
Was it Pat Kanuga? Our former colleague who retired from CBC he would know all about Princess Auto, right?
Yeah, he's big into the car parts. Yeah.
Apparently, though, it's one of those stores where you go in and you can get lost, and then there's a whole bunch of different things even beyond car parts. But I still find 8:30 last night kind of wow.
Yeah, and they just had a chain cutting rather than a ribbon cutting. They had
fun.
A chain cutting.
Why not? All right, thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
7:12 a.m. A little retail local lore there. Let's get into what's happening in the forecast. As I alluded to, it's sticky, Abby. It's kind of you can tell it wants to rain.
Yes, you could feel the humidity outside. Humid one today. Up north, we're still seeing the warnings in the northern part of the province, all the way towards the Thompson area this morning. We're talking about highs close to beyond 30 degrees for that part of the province. While for the southern regions, we're going to see a mix of sun and clouds and a risk of afternoon thunderstorms in the mix. For the city, we're looking at sunny conditions at this time. The clouds will roll in by the afternoon period, and then we'll see that risk of thunderstorms also come in. Temperatures already in Winnipeg close to 20 degrees at this time. It's really going to be hovering and climbing even further as we get into the day. Our high for today will be a humid 29 degrees, but with the humidity factored in, it's going to even feel close to 35, 36, and that's similar conditions across the southern regions. We're already seeing temperatures close to 20 degrees in most regions in the southern area. Gimli already at 18, warming up to 29 at this time, and then the Parkland and the Westman regions, we're already seeing 15s and all close to 18s. Up north, we're also seeing temperatures close to 16 degrees around the Par Flin Flon. Similar conditions towards Thompson. Churchill still having those foggy conditions at 2 degrees right now. You're only going to stay steady. You get to 3 later. So it's more like a split one across the province today. The northern regions, heat warnings, and down south, we're seeing more like this humid, muggy day ahead with this rain coming. It's not really going to be cooling things off. So if you think the rain will cool anything off, no, it's going to be a humid one. Winnipeg, we're warming up to 29 today.
All right, let's get into what's going on in the commute. Corey.
There's a closure to keep an eye out for here. So eastbound and westbound Silver Avenue, both curb lanes are going to be closed between Inglewood and for street construction. So the lanes of Silver Avenue between Inglewood Street right to the end will be closed for street construction until June 19th. Only one lane will be closed at a time, so all the lanes will be open for morning rush hour, though. So keep that in mind. Also, Jeff called about southbound McPhillips, the curb lane closed from the perimeter essentially to Story Road, and that's expected to be until mid-September with certain lanes different lanes at a time. Southbound are going to be closed until then for construction. And finally, got a call from Gil on the commuter line. He said Highway 8, there's a goat and 3 horses out and about on the highway about 15 kilometers north of Clandeboye. They seem to be kind of moving together as a group.
They're wearing trunks and they're looking for the beach, so help them out.
Yeah, exactly. So if you just point them in the direction, let them know. If you have no drive by them and you can safely take a picture, we'd love to see. Give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number 204-788-3093.
Well, as I mentioned, as we've been reporting on, a growing mental health crisis is driving some teachers out of the classroom. Some Manitoba educators are walking away from a profession that they love in an effort to protect their own mental health. The Manitoba Teachers Society says, according to a survey they conducted with Probe Research last month, about 4 in 10 educators said that they want to leave the profession before retirement. The survey happened and was conducted between January 22nd and February 17th of this year. After 5 years of teaching high school math, Haley Kupiak made that decision. Now she says she's trying to help other teachers who are struggling so they too can focus on their own self-care. Haley Kupiak joins us in studio. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Why did you go into teaching in the first place? What did you love or what attracted you to the profession?
Making a difference, being around kids every day, helping them find their spark, what lights them up.
And so what was it like for you to make the decision to leave the profession? How long did you stew with it?
Yeah, it was incredibly difficult. It was probably in my year 3, 4-ish of teaching, and just noticing that I was just kind of going through the motions, really, really putting my work ahead of everything else in life. So it was about a year and a half, and I thought that was normal. Definitely a lot of shame, thinking I couldn't handle it, and this was a me thing. So it was really shaming and really isolating.
Putting your work in front of everything in your life, for what reason? What was happening? What were the pressures from work or that were making that happen, for example? You know what I mean?
Almost feeling like I couldn't keep up with the workload, I feel like, and wanting to do a good job and really wanting to be there for my kiddos, and never feeling like I could do enough and be enough for them.
Take me in the classroom. We mentioned you taught high school math. So what were the challenges of teaching kids at that level compared to what you thought teaching kids at that level in high school would be like in terms of their abilities and their needs in the math classroom?
I had some really, really great mentors growing up in my own high school life that really were able to, teach me math, but also teach me more about life. And I found that my experience in the classroom, ever since COVID, kind of student needs and complexities and behaviors and violence even I'm hearing in classrooms has just surged. And a lot of times, trying to teach the whole student, I felt bound by curriculum, teaching math curriculum rather than I wanted to teach, life skills and how to be a good human.
So were kids coming in with more challenges in life or more challenges in their level of math that you were trying to keep up with all this?
I'd say yes.
Both.
I'd say both. It's hard for me. Yeah, I was a teacher for 5 years, so I started in around 2019. And so the varying levels definitely of math ability, so I was teaching grade 9, let's say, and I'd have students just at varying academic levels. And I found that challenging to prep for and also challenge students. I had some students probably, so if I was teaching grade 9, probably grade 3, 4 level, up to like grade 11 that needed to be challenged.
Gaps, all kinds of gaps all over. So you're keeping up with that, and then you're keeping up with other needs. When did you walk away from the profession?
I was about 5 years in. So what is that? 2014. Yeah, it's almost been a couple years now.
Yeah. What made you realize you were struggling with your mental health? Like, tell me more about the signs. You were talking about balance, but were you? How else was your health affected by the pressures from school, from your profession?
Yeah, the big one for me was I was no longer sleeping through the night, which I thought that was a red flag for me. And it was my doctor and actually my counselor at the time that were able to step in and say, hey, this isn't normal. You're experiencing work stress, and they even called it burnout. And now I learned that I did experience burnout. And I needed time to heal. I was no longer able to do things I used to enjoy. And work was really taking that over.
How hard is it to leave the kids behind?
It's the hardest thing I've done. Yeah. And
maybe I shouldn't frame it that way, because I don't mean to be negative, but you talked about, I'm building off of what you shared, which is, I think you said shame maybe, or weak. I can't recall the words you used, but you said it was all you, and you felt like it was just you, and you should be able to keep up. So that's what I was just wondering, because obviously you care about these kids. Yet you're trying to put yourself, your health is struggling.
It's a difficult balance. And I hear from teachers a lot of the time, that shaming and that I should be able to, and should is such a shaming word. But I do hope, one day students everywhere do have the courage and the bravery to choose themselves and to come back to themselves.
We've been hearing about Manitoba Teachers Society that there's a shortage of teachers, that many are going on stress leave because of burnout. What do you say to those who might be critical for leaving the profession? Like, does some of that pressure come from inside where teachers would say, well, I can handle it and you can't?
Maybe. Yeah, very, very likely. I identify as a highly sensitive, empathic, socially anxious introvert. And so maybe that was on me. Maybe this wasn't the environment that I thrived best in. And that's okay. Like, here's what I'm here to talk to teachers about is, this career that maybe you chose at 17, 18, 19, it's okay if it's not forever. We're seeing a lot more of that lately as well, changing careers. And so if I can be an advocate for taking care of yourself and mental wellness, then that's what I get to do.
But on the other hand, I mean, if that means that teaching has to be somebody that can handle all these things, there's a line about what's reasonable and what's not. What could have kept you in the profession when you think about resources, help, the school system, or at the school level? Like, what could have kept you in the profession? Because, I don't think it's all about who's cut out and not cut out for it. If you look at all kinds of different people are needed in teaching, or you or others that you work with. Or
yeah, I am optimistic about the changes. I mean, MTS is doing such an incredible job. Admin, teachers, EA staff are really doing the best they can, parents as well. And I am optimistic with Bill 29 coming in, amending to our Workplace Health and Safety Act, so adding psychological health and safety. So it's like, yeah, mental health in the workplace is important. This is a win for us. So I'm optimistic about that bill, as well as funding. Can I say funding? Education we need more money. We need more training. We need more bodies in the classroom that are able to help with all the complex needs.
You have an analogy from an airplane that you use that I think is actually really important. Do you know what I'm talking about? The oxygen mask?
Now I do.
Yeah. Can you share that?
When you're on an airplane and they always say, you need to put your own oxygen mask on first before helping others. And I have come back to that analogy because, people say it's selfish, but what's selfish about, saving yourself so that I can help others and I can be that cup-filling person for others as well.
Where are you helping teachers with the decision to leave? Is it sort of just one-on-one, or are you doing this through an actual platform if they reach out?
Yeah, so I started it actually just friends reaching out saying, oh, you left teaching, tell me more. And it's kind of grown into this coaching business that I now have. So on Instagram is primarily where folks find me. And I've done, one-on-one work. I also have a 6-month container for teachers that are leaving curious about, do I want to leave? What else is out there for me? Or, do I just need to change some boundaries in my life? And maybe this is the profession for me to stay in.
You mentioned violence at the beginning. Is that something that you had encountered in your own teaching profession in the time as well?
Thankfully, personally, no. Okay. I have only just seen and heard about the violence happening in schools.
Got it. In terms of advice for teachers right now who might be dealing with similar struggles and listening right now and feeling, I don't know, maybe they're breathing out, maybe they're listening to you and feeling like, oh, it's not me, and maybe I should leave, or maybe I shouldn't leave. But, what would you say to someone who is struggling?
You're not alone. I call it a teacher epidemic, and really, really proud that I get to start and continue this conversation with educators and teachers. And we have one life to live. That's one thing that I come back to a lot, and you'll never regret reconnecting with yourself and being your authentic self. So I see you, I hear you, and keep doing what you're doing.
How has your life changed or improved since you made your decision?
Well, I went to the hairdresser recently, and she didn't know I've changed careers, and she told me that I had breakage like down here in my hair, and it's growing back stronger in my head. So that's the first one that comes is stress. Physical things, stress. I love life. I wake up and sometimes I just cry, and I'm just grateful for, the path that I chose. And I don't really have words. This life is just incredible, and I wake up very excited and very grateful every morning.
Thank you very much for telling us about the decision and also how the struggle, how you came to it, and then obviously what it was like for you in this profession. Appreciate your time today, Haley.
Thank you so much.
That's Haley Kupiak with us, former educator, with us talking about her decision to leave teaching. It is 7:26 a.m. on 89.3 FM. We got to move on and talk sports because there's plenty of positives to go over for Canada last night, as you might have heard, in one of the team's final tune-ups for the World Cup. And let's start there with Scott Regehr. Hey, Scott.
Yeah, hi, Marcy. Plenty of positives, including the fact they won 2-0 in that friendly over Uzbekistan. Jonathan Osorio and Jaden Nelson had the goals. Maxime Crepeau and Dane St. Clair did the goaltending, each playing a half in what ended up being a shutout. Most importantly, though, there were no new injuries. And that is saying something, given the match was played in very slippery conditions on a brand new grass pitch in the driving rain in Edmonton. Coach Jesse Marsh says he's happy with the outcome.
Some of these games lack a little bit of intensity because players are worried about getting injured. And, we've really tried to say, despite all the situation that we're in with injuries, that we have to stay focused on our goals and our ability to continue to grow and get better and really prepare for what the matches are going to be. And I thought the guys' mentality was literally perfect, right? So that helped us, I think, get a good performance and get a good win.
A win where Jaden Nelson may have gained the most, Marcy. Speedy and skilled, Nelson showed off both of those attributes on the goal he scored in extra time, rocketing down the left wing, overlapping Tani Oluwaseyi, accepting his pass and then calmly slotting it past the Uzbek goalie. This is the type of play Marcelo Flores might have made had he not torn his knee ligaments over the weekend, ending his World Cup dreams. As the saying goes, one person's misfortune is another's opportunity. So watch Jaden Nelson. He'll get another shot to try to make a home World Cup when Canada plays its final tune-up. That's Friday in Montreal against Ireland.
Let's go to tennis. There's big news on and off the Parisian clay, right?
Yes, on it, Felix Auger-Aliassime played his best match yet at the French Open. A straight sets win over Alejandro Tabilo that sees the Montrealer through to the quarterfinals. Now, seldom has a Canadian men's singles player had such a good shot at winning a Grand Slam, but injuries and upsets mean Auger-Aliassime is now the top-ranked player on his side of the draw. He's going to face Italy's Flavio Cobolli in the quarterfinals tomorrow. Meanwhile, how's this for a tease?
I got to change my number.
Yeah, that's part of a video. You recognize that voice, right? That's part of a video posted on social media yesterday by Serena Williams, showing the retired legend walking off of a tennis court with her phone ringing, along with the caption, "Guess everybody heard the news." The news is, at age 44 and after nearly 4 years away from the sport, she is coming back. She's going to play doubles at next week's Queen's Club tournament in London, and her partner reportedly is going to be the rising Canadian star, Victoria Mboko. Pretty cool.
And tonight's the night where Winnipeg's Seth Jarvis and Ehlers, of course, former Jet, are going for the Stanley Cup on Carolina's side. The final begins tonight. What are you watching for?
Well, I mean, the Manitoba content goes even beyond the Carolina Hurricanes. You mentioned Jarvis from Winnipeg. There's Jordan Martinook on the Canes. He's from Brandon. And then Nick Ehlers, who's had an excellent playoff with the Hurricanes. Then on the other side, the Vegas Golden Knights. Well, Mark Stone from Winnipeg. Keegan Kolisak, he's from Brandon. And there's Oakbank's Brett Howden. And a former Jets defenseman, Dylan Coughlin, suiting up. So this is going to be a tough one to choose if you have Manitoba loyalties. 7 o'clock Central Time tonight. It is Carolina hosting the Vegas Golden Knights.
All right, Scott, thank you. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Sounds good.
That's Scott Regehr with Morning Sports. Let's just remind you about Guild calling the commuter line. Watch for goat. 3 horses got out. They're on Highway 8, about 15K north of Clandeboye Road. That might have moved by now, or they might have moved by now. But 788-3093 if you have anything to update the commute. Let's get to your CBC News from Manitoba.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 7:30, it's sunny. It is a little steamy out there. 19 right now. We're headed to 29 today. We'll see increasing afternoon clouds with a risk of a thunderstorm late in the day. Also showers this evening. A little bit on the breezy side as well. Hundreds of people are getting a first look at the brand new Princess Auto on Panet Road. That is the chain cutting just about half an hour ago. CBC reporter Megan Ketchison is there talking to customers, and Megan joins us live now. Megan?
Well, there were hundreds of people lined up outside of the new Princess Auto. This is at 500 Planet. This new store is 105 square feet. It's the biggest store that Princess Auto, which of course is headquartered here in Winnipeg, has opened. And I was talking to some of the people here. There was a person who was lined up here from 8 o'clock last night. He was the first person in line. And then I was speaking with someone with Princess Auto, and they say the last person who was shopping at the old store just across the parking lot here came over and got in line right after he was the last customer at the other store. I was speaking with Chris Pellerin. He was here in line and waiting here since early this morning.
To see a company expand so much, I'm here almost every week resupplying tools for our shop. So, this is kind of a pivotal moment in time for me and for the company. So great to see it.
Yeah, so lots of cheering, everybody's in the store now, so they've all gone in. I'm seeing people that are coming out with shopping carts that are loaded. They're going to be having specials all week. What's different about this store is there's actually going to be spaces in here that you can actually do work, use their tools, and actually build things in Princess Auto itself. Reporting live, Megan Ketchison, CBC News.
Thanks so much, Megan. Well, the Brandon Police Service rolls out new body-worn cameras this week, but a professor questions whether they should adopt them. Christopher Snyder at Brandon University has studied the use of police cameras. He says they have largely been rolled out based on the assumption people would change their behavior if a camera is involved. Snyder adds because of privacy rules, the footage from those cameras is typically not shared publicly.
Just because everyone else is doing it doesn't mean that we should do it. And by that, I mean the research literature, the evidence on body-worn cameras is inconsistent. So it's not very clear if they are going to work, whatever that may or may not mean, for Brandonites.
12 of the cameras are being rolled out on officers today with a goal of 65 by the end of this year. In January, Brandon Police estimated the cameras would cost around $400,000. People from Denair Beach, Saskatchewan, just west of Flin Flon, are gathering on the shores of a Misk Lake, marking 1 year since a wildfire destroyed more than 200 homes. It displaced people from Denair Beach and nearby Peter Ballantine Cree Nation. A year later, a flurry of activity as construction season starts. Denair's Deputy Mayor, Karen Thompson, says today's event will be somber but healing.
There is a wide variety of emotions that are going through, and you have to understand that we're all going through a grieving process, and we're not all in the same place in our grief and our sorrow.
Thompson says the community has worked on wildfire prevention in recent months. That includes creating fire breaks and accessing extra training for volunteer fire crews. You can hear more on this story coming up in this next half hour right here on Information Radio. A proposed expansion of a wind farm near Saint Leon has some people in that area concerned for the future of the community. Swan Lake Wind, a partnership between Swan Lake First Nation and Vancouver-based Interjex, hopes to see the project get provincial approval this fall. Sarah Mazur lives beside where a wind turbine could be built. She worries it will disrupt the tranquility of the land and the memorial cabin built for her mom.
If it's this big windmill that's being built right in our backyard, I just feel like we should have a say with stuff that's this size.
Interjex says its proposal includes between 30 and 35 wind towers, each about 120 meters tall. A town hall will be held tomorrow in Somerset. At least 18 people have been killed as cities across Ukraine came under intense Russian aerial attacks overnight. 100 more are injured. Explosions in Kyiv, where officials say at least 4 people died. Ukraine's military says Russia fired more than 70 missiles and 650 drones. Kyiv and Dnipro were the main targets. Officials say there were 2 waves of attacks over the course of just a few hours. Meanwhile, Ukraine's military says it has struck a Russian oil refinery east of Crimea. And the World Health Organization has just released updated numbers on Central Africa's Ebola outbreak. The agency says there has been a large drop after hundreds of suspected cases were ruled out. In the Democratic Republic of Congo and Uganda, there are now 330 confirmed cases, 116 suspected cases, and 49 confirmed deaths. You can hear the latest national and international news coming up on World Report at 8. And you can find more Manitoba news throughout your day at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right, thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Well, Abby, I've been sweating it out. I didn't even bother wearing my hair down today because I'm like, it's going to be up in 5 seconds. It's so humid.
Yes, Marcy. Though it's bright outside, clear start to your Tuesday. We're tracking this regional differences today with sunshine in the south. And of course, these active heat warnings blanketing a large chunk of the northern part of the province. Here in Winnipeg, though, we are still under these clear conditions. Sunny outside. We're seeing temperatures between 18 and 19 degrees. Expect a beautiful and mainly sunny day as we climb all the way to that warm afternoon high of 29 degrees today. The winds will remain light and breezy out of the south, and more clear conditions into the evening period. Now, across southern Manitoba, from the Pembina Valley region all the way to the Westman and Parkland region, we're seeing clear and also similar conditions. Temperatures sitting comfortably in the mid-teens right now, but you should expect a hot day across the regions. We're talking about daytime highs close to 24 and 29 degrees across Brandon, Morden, Dauphin, all the way to Gimli this morning, with the humidity, the humidex around 33. And then up north, the heat warnings main headlines stretching from the PAR all the way through to Norway House and the Thompson area. We're seeing morning values already in the mid-teens for most of those regions, and highs will get to 30 degrees for most of those regions. But we should start seeing things cool off for that region. And then if you go far north, Lynn Lake, Gillam, Tudor Lake towards Churchill, we're seeing temperatures between 2 and 16 right now, with Tudor Lake and Churchill being the cool spots. Just seeing those foggy conditions and some showers in the mix. We're talking about temperatures between 3 and 10 degrees for that part of the province. So looking at the hot stretch for the province today, and we have a thunderstorm activity sometime later in the south with this extreme humidity really building for this part of the province. So hydrate and
something's got to give.
Do I say don't sweat it?
Even though we will?
We will. 19 degrees right now in Winnipeg.
Thanks, Abby.
You're welcome.
Abby Adeyemi with our regional forecast here. Corey Funk's in. The commute's been quiet, so I just want to talk about your garden because you've got this amazing thing, and this happened to me when we first bought our house years ago. You bought the house before the garden bloomed.
Yes.
And now you're getting like the surprise
And it's
in
so
the yard
fun.
of what you have.
Yeah, it's so fun to see. I think the people before us were great gardeners, obviously, and there's all these lovely perennials starting to pop up and things like that. And but the toughest part with a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old is trying to convince them not to pick all the flowers.
Yes.
Because it's very cute because they want to pick the flowers and they want to give it to me or my wife or my mom or my dad.
Yeah.
But then there's like you got to be like you're trying to tell them to leave them for the bees, but
you should take you should have a whole chart of the weeds.
Yes.
And then give them to the kids and say it's a treasure hunt. And me and mom want we want weed bouquets.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah. Then they'll just like bend over. They're shorter than us. It's easier for them to pick weeds.
Yes. My mom's because we're doing the multi-generational thing. My mom is doing this thing now where she got a bunch of sprinkles and got them to plant sprinkles in a pot, and then every 4 or 5 days a lollipop sprouts out. Pretty cool.
Wow, that's a good grandma. I like it.
Yeah.
Well, if something pops up you don't like, I'll send Doug over because he seems to find everything I love, and that's my dog, and raise his leg and ruin it. So, Corey, if people do want to reach you this morning.
Yes, 204-788-3093 is the number to call if you see something going on in the commute.
Okay, everything's been pretty good so far.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
20 to 8 right now on 89.3. Next on the show, we all need a little more neighborly love, don't we? Well, that's where Chatterbox comes in. I'm talking about a circa 1978 camper trailer. It's golden yellow, it's cream colored, Surfside AAA trailer, and it's been transformed into a gratitude mission on wheels. The mobile recording studio captures personal stories about neighborly love. It will hit select community events over the summer, and they're starting this weekend during Transcona's Hi Neighbor Festival. David Balser is the founder and recordist behind the project, and he's also Associate Professor of Communications and Media over at Canadian Mennonite University here. Hi, David. Nice to see you.
Hi.
And also in studio is Practicum student Amanda Duick, who's along for the ride. Good morning.
Good morning.
So tell us how the project works.
Yeah, it's the Chatterbox is both, I call it an experience and a trailer. So basically people step in. I ask them to tell me a story about why their neighbor's a great neighbor. And then we produce that story. We give it back to them. And we encourage them. We give them a variety of ways of giving that story to their neighbor. So there's the moment in the trailer at the block party, so to speak. And then there's obviously the delay of the production. And then there's that next experience. But what I'm finding is that there's a whole ton of kindness in people. They're walking around with it. But sometimes we don't like walk up to our neighbor and say, hey, do you want me to tell you why you're so awesome? So the Chatterbox fills that gap.
And so to be clear, you record them audio. It's an audio recording.
Yes.
Do you ask for photos as well? Like what
do.
What do the people expect for a length of time they're in the Chatterbox?
5 to 7 minutes.
Okay.
So we try to turn it around real quick. We've got we make it easy. We have a prompt sheet. We kind of coach people to tell us a story, to take this moment, and they may be very small moments, bigger moments, and we capture that.
And turn it around.
It's all audio, and then we post it with a photo and a link, and then you send it to your neighbor.
And you post it where?
So chatterboxrecording.ca would be our site, but we partner with community organizations. So often they have a website, and they share it in the way that they would like, if we have public permission to share that story. So we're doing it for neighbor to neighbor. If you give us permission to give it to people more broadly, then we'll do that as well.
You started this some 3 years ago, but it actually stemmed from, did you have a heart attack?
I did.
What happened in 2022? This is just before you started this.
Yeah, so the heart attack was very unexpected, and I survived, as is obvious. And so over the course of that year, heart attacks make you think about your heart. My family always says, where's the point where you start getting emotional?
It's here. Yeah, it should be.
My wife said to me, you've been dreaming about this idea for 10 years. So let's do it. So for us, the heart attack meant we started spending a lot of money. But money to make a dream come true of just bring technology together to become more human, and to bring people literally together through audio stories. I'm an audio guy. I've done interviews for many years. And so I'm like, if I could just put it in this little trailer and we could go into a community and just start bringing people together. And there's so much, we all know what the issues are in communities. And the neighbor's the person you didn't choose to live beside, right? Yeah. It's the person whose kindness is kind of it's unprompted,
It's just there.
Yeah.
Across the fence.
So we help share it.
Amanda, what are you most looking forward to in these recording sessions? Because the first one's this weekend in Transcona.
Yes. I think what I'm most looking forward to is seeing the connections that we can see just like form in the conversations that we have within the Chatterbox, because it's all about community building. So just seeing connections that people walk away with, even just standing in line.
Yeah.
That's what I'm excited
about. Now, people don't have to pay for this? Like this is, there's no fee for any of this. You're just doing it.
No, I mean, the partners, right now, my pocket is the one that's kind of carrying the deal, but I also have now I got a small grant, and then sometimes a community partner will help pay for the posters that promote it.
You've been doing this for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Do you have a story that sticks with you?
Oh, my goodness.
I know that's the worst question, right? As someone who does interviews every day, I understand, because they all stay with you,
so,
right?
I mean, this is... Grace and Mickey, we were in Altona, and they're newcomers to Canada, and they tell the story of going outside to the big blue huge bins at their apartment block and trying to get the garbage in. And in their words, they said they were vertically challenged. They couldn't lift the lid high enough to get the garbage in. And somebody saw them and came over in -30 and lifted the bin and they could, and they're in the chatterbox telling us what it means to be in that community through this story, right?
Yeah.
There's the single mom and her daughter they came in, and we were doing an event in the North End, and you could choose the theme you wanted, gratitude, smiles, and we talk about it. And to hear an 11-year-old look at her mom, emotion again, and just tell her why she is grateful for her. And we're at a block party on Aberdeen, and all of a sudden this moment emerges inside of the trailer. It's a lot of joy to manage in a day.
I love that. People must leave the trailer then feeling that, because the mom is going to have that moment with her, with her kid.
I mean, to see that moment of care, and then see what happens when they walk out together. Yeah, you step out of the trailer kind of happier than when you went in.
Okay, let's talk about the trailer, because it's a pretty cool looking trailer. How challenging was it to find this trailer and then make this happen?
I'm not really a Facebook person, but Catherine said to me, my wife said, post it on Facebook. Maybe somebody. I had the picture of exactly the trailer that I wanted, 14-foot.
There it is. If you're watching on by the way, on our YouTube stream, you're going to see it. Okay.
And so I posted, and then I closed my laptop because I didn't think anything would happen. In the morning, I opened it, and there's a message from a college friend of mine from literally like 20 years ago, and said, my buddy's parents in Saskatoon are selling a trailer that looks exactly like that.
Meant to be.
Long story short, I drove to Saskatoon and picked up the trailer.
Meant to be.
It was manufactured, I found out later, a kilometer from my house here in Winnipeg on Springfield
Get
Road.
out of here.
Because it's a Manitoba thing. It's these fiberglass trailers. It's kind of in the bowler family.
Right. They have the big gatherings sometimes here. Yeah.
For kind of the hobbyists out there, it's not a bowler. It's a triple E Surfside, but only very few people would know the difference. But that's how I got
You've
the
collected
trailer.
like 150 stories, or over 100 for sure. What is the need you think the Chatterbox fills for people?
Isolation. It's kind of it, right? And we all have a story we could tell about somebody we don't like, but how many of us are telling a story about somebody that truly has expressed kindness? And it starts breaking down. Like, we drove around Altona for an hour and a half delivering these prizes, and there's a whole nother layer of this. And I
Try
realized
to prompt people to share. Okay.
Yeah, and I realized that kindness can penetrate any social or economic barrier. We were in the trailer park and in these beautiful, gardened yards that we had to drive way down the drive to share these stories, to get these neighbors together. And it's just like, for an hour and a half, I realized, wow, kindness can go anywhere.
I love this. It's lifted the morning. So June 6th and 7th, 3 public events starting in Transcona at the High Neighbor Party. If you've never been out to High Neighbor, by the way, go do that anyway. Nice to meet you, Amanda. Enjoy this project.
Thank you so much.
And David, thank you so much for coming in and telling us all about it and this year's version of it, and enjoy it. Thanks for sharing the joy.
Thank you.
David Balzer in studio at CBC with us live as well. Researcher and recordist behind the Chatterbox. Amanda, by the way, a practicum student. So if you want to hear some of the recordings, you can go to chatterboxrecording.ca for those that gave permission that we could, David could share them. Also, if you want to see the Chatterbox in action, you can watch a new video about the project on CBC Manitoba's website as well, cbc.ca/Manitoba, and check it out this weekend in Ticona.
On the topics that matter, your voice should be heard.
It looks like this is maybe a one-day blip when farmers across the province need hot and dry.
Radio Noon is where you can voice your take.
In general, it's harder to find a job even if you're educated.
I'm Marjorie Dowhouse. From 12:15 to 1 p.m., Radio Noon opens the phone lines on one important topic.
When I was 5 or 6, my parents gave me seeds and helped me plant them. That was probably close to 70 years ago. And here I am still gardening.
It just brings everyone together. Radio Noon's call-in segment, 204-780-0893. We want to hear from you weekdays on CBC.
It is 10 to 8 right now on Tuesday, June 2nd. It's partly cloudy, 19 in Winnipeg, although lots of sun downtown. Well, as you've been hearing in the news, it's been exactly 1 year since a wildfire devastated the village of Denair Beach in Saskatchewan. It's about 20 kilometers southwest of Flin Flon, just inside the Saskatchewan border, and because of the proximity, both communities often feel as one. But in Denair Beach last year, 300 homes and businesses burned to the ground in one day. Hundreds of families lost their homes that day, everything inside them as well. And our next guest was one of those people. Deb Knutsen's a lifelong resident of Denair Beach. She lost her home, as we said, in the wildfire. She's right now living in Creighton, Saskatchewan, but she's working to rebuild in Denair Beach, and she's here via Zoom. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
What are the emotions like for you today on this sobering, I don't even know what to call it, somber anniversary, I think is what I'll say, but how are you feeling?
I feel like there's a big rock in the pit of my stomach.
Yeah.
Go on. It's just been a rough year. It's been a rough year.
Where has the support mattered for you in this last year when you think about people coming together?
Oh, our village is amazing. Our council worked tirelessly along with a local contractor, Joey Rubicki, to clean up the village, and they did a phenomenal job, and they did it in an unprecedented amount of time. Like, it was done before September. So we could have, if insurance would have allowed us, been able to get a house, but insurance has been, I don't know if anybody else has heard, but it's been excruciating. And the actual community has been amazing, because we have paint nights to get us together. There's been bingos to get us together. Shortly after the fire last summer, they had what was called Beaver Palooza, which was out in our main beach area.
Just to try to keep that community feeling. Keep people together.
Yeah. Because there's so many lifelong people out there.
And you're still waiting for a place. In so much as you're okay to share this morning, what do you remember the most about what happened a year ago today?
The phone call from my husband, because he stayed back and was fighting the fire. And he phoned me, and just the tone of his voice and saying, "I'm coming to you." We were in Saskatoon. I was with my daughter, who was 9 months pregnant, and with her 2 little boys, staying at my cousin's daughter's place. And he phoned and he said, "I'm coming to you." He said, "The village is burning." He said, "Our house is going to be gone by the end of the day, and so is Brooke's." And Brooke lived right behind me. So her little guys could walk over and see Mima. That's what I am, is I'm a Mima. And come and see Mima whenever they wanted, come get a popsicle or a hug or a kiss or, whatever. And so my husband, Tracy, all I was worried about was he was underfed, he was tired, and he had to drive 6 hours. And I was just sick to my stomach thinking how the long trek is going to be. And I was worried about my house, but I was more worried about my husband.
Yeah.
Because without your family, you don't have a home.
And it happened so quickly. I mean, I know when we were up in Flin Flon, people were sharing with us sort of how frantic those messages were that day. It was really a get out. It just swept. I'm wondering also how your year's been, because on top of everything you've been through and losing your home and looking at the community, I understand your husband was ill as well. He had some radiation treatment in the winter. How's he doing now?
The radiation did everything that it was supposed to do. So we're very thankful for that. The doctors in Saskatoon were phenomenal.
You talk about the family being, the home. But when you went back to Denair Beach and saw the loss, what was that like for you?
Every home that I've ever lived in, I've lived in Denair Beach 52 out of my 53 years. I moved out there when I was 1. My dad built many homes out there. But the 3 homes that I've ever lived in, all 3 of them are gone.
When you think back to some of the memories that are standing out to you the most, because you can carry those with you, what's something that is in your mind about any 3? On one of those homes, I guess you have a lot of memories.
Yeah. Well, I lived 30 years with my husband in the home that we lost. And that's like, I think back to my mom and dad's house, and I hold a lot of memories there, but I had to hold those anyway because it wasn't my family home anymore. But where I raised my babies, where like 2 years ago, we renewed our wedding vows, and I had 29 bridesmaids, all my nieces, all my friends. We renewed our wedding vows, and we had just sunk like a astronomical amount of money into our home. So we had this great big celebration in our backyard. And because our daughter lived right behind, her yard was involved. And it was just, it's gone, but it's going to be good again.
Yeah.
We're all going to be together again. And, you know, I have pictures, I have the memories, but we're going to make some new ones.
And some hope for the future. We'll have to see what happens with all of the rebuilding. I know it's been slow for folks. When we were up in Flin Flon, we were hearing that a lot. Thank you very much, Deb, for being with us today and sharing with us how you're feeling on this complicated anniversary.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Good luck with your rebuild.
Okay, thank you.
That's Deb Knutson with us live on Zoom this morning. She's a lifelong, as she told us, Denair Beach resident. She lost her home a year ago in that devastating wildfire, and you can read more about this at cbc.ca/Manitoba. Coming up on Information Radio after 8 o'clock this morning, we are going to be talking about something that you are likely seeing around because the weather's here and nice. Talking about electric bikes, mopeds, and all of those vehicles out there that don't necessarily have a lot of rules to follow. In Ontario, they're looking at implementing new legislation around e-bikes, and we are hearing here from Manitoba's Transportation Minister that her government recently introduced Bill 43, which is some new proposed legislation that could affect e-bikes here. And so stay tuned. We're going to hear more about personal electric vehicles, speed limits, and also what someone who rides an e-bike would like to see moving forward in Manitoba. So that's coming up on the show after 8 o'clock. Right now, it's partly cloudy. It's 19, our high 29. Risk of a thunderstorm late this afternoon, and increasing cloud this afternoon comes with that. Corey's in with a quick update on the commute.
Just got a call on the commuter line. Northbound Waverley, there's a stalled car that is blocking part of the road there just past McGilvery, causing some backups there. So just heads up, it was blocking the only lane that was open, so it just moved. It's been moved over, but still very slow going in that area.
Okay, for headlines, you're going to have to go to cbc.ca/Manitoba this morning and follow developing stories there. And stay with us because World Report is coming up next.
Q. Jennifer Lawrence is an incredible actor. I mean, she famously beat Meryl Streep for an Oscar back in 2013. But even with all of her success, Jennifer will tell you why not rehearsing and never taking an acting class is actually the key to her success.
I don't rehearse. I try to just keep everything as raw and real.
Q with Tom Power. This morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland. And on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts. The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current.
I'm Mark Kelly. The tech journalist Joanna Stern wanted to understand the promise and pitfalls of artificial intelligence. So she spent a year using AI in every part of her life. And she has some wild stories to tell. Coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Martina Fitzgerald.
Canada-U.S. Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc is in Washington. He'll be meeting with his American counterpart about the Canada-U.S.-Mexico trade agreement. Jameson Greer signaled to Congress on Monday the U.S. will maintain tariffs on Canadian goods. Janice McGregor joins us from Ottawa. Janice, LeBlanc and Greer are finally meeting. What are expectations?
Martina, because Dominic LeBlanc's been under fire for not getting as much face time with the Trump administration as his Mexican counterparts, the most important thing about this meeting might be that it's actually confirmed and happening. But it's not an official negotiating round, so the prospect of any specific result by end of day may not be realistic. More interesting might be who he met with before heading to Washington today. Yesterday, Natural Resources Minister Tim Hodgson joined him for talks with representatives from Canada's oil and gas industry. The readout from this meeting talked about how maintaining preferential access for Canadian energy is a priority in the upcoming CUSMA talks. And there are voices, including just yesterday, Pierre Poilievre's, calling for Canada's resources to become leverage in tariff negotiations. But with Canada's refinery capacity limited, threatening to put an export tax, for example, on oil shipping south, well, that could be risky and push energy prices for Canadians even higher.
Yeah, Janice, Donald Trump just made some changes to sectoral tariffs on Canada. What adjustments were made?
Yeah, by presidential proclamation again late last night, they've lowered the tariffs payable on certain agricultural machinery, construction vehicles, and other industrial equipment, combines, bulldozers, forklifts, that sort of thing, from 25 to 15%, depending on what it is and where it comes from. Foreign companies that use U.S. melted and poured steel and aluminum are now eligible to qualify for a new 10% duty rate for their products. It's another push from the White House to restart or build new American mills and smelters. These changes are temporary, time-limited, adding again to the complications and the uncertainty of the Trump tariff regime. And they aren't concessions to foreign governments like Canada. They're about giving relief to American firms that have been struggling with inflated input costs from the tariff war.
Thank you, Janice.
You're welcome.
That is the CBC's Janice McGregor in our Parliamentary Bureau. To Ukraine now, where Russia has launched one of its largest aerial assaults of the war. At least 18 people have been killed and dozens injured, including several children. The attacks targeted Kyiv, along with Dnipro and several other eastern Ukrainian cities. Ukrainian officials say Russia unleashed 73 missiles and more than 600 drones. The bombings follow threats from Russian President Vladimir Putin. He promised retaliation for Ukrainian strikes on a dormitory in the Russian-held Luhansk region. Since a brief ceasefire expired in May, Russia has hit Ukraine's power supplies and infrastructure, while Ukraine has stepped up attacks on oil facilities inside Russia. Both countries deny targeting civilians. Despite an agreement between Israel and Hezbollah, there is more fighting in southern Lebanon. The deal was supposed to see a de-escalation, with Israel ending its strikes on southern Beirut and Hezbollah halting its attacks on Israel. The CBC's Willie Lowry is following the latest developments from Jerusalem.
While the frenetic pace of attacks has slowed, the Israeli military and Hezbollah have continued to trade strikes, despite the U.S. brokering a partial ceasefire between the two. Lebanon's state-run national news agency saying that Israel hit several areas in the south, including in the town of Debin. Meanwhile, sirens sounded in northern Israel this morning from a suspected Hezbollah drone. The group says it's carried out attacks on Israeli tanks in the south. On Monday, after Israel threatened to hit Beirut, U.S. President Donald Trump stepped in, speaking by phone with both Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and intermediaries for Hezbollah. On social media, Trump said, quote, "There will be no troops going to Beirut, and any troops that are on their way have already been turned back." The U.S. president went on to say that Hezbollah has also agreed to stop its attacks on Israel, Lebanon's embassy in Washington confirming the Iranian-backed militant group would refrain from carrying out further attacks. Joel Rayburn, a former U.S. diplomat, says Trump managed to spare Beirut while allowing Israel to continue its operations in southern Lebanon.
He's trying to give the Israelis enough room where they can take military action to defend themselves, but without necessarily going all the way to the heart of the Hezbollah problem, which is in southern Beirut.
Some in Israel are criticizing Netanyahu for yielding to Trump's demands. Far-right National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir implored Netanyahu to say no to Trump. Willie Lowry, CBC News, Jerusalem.
We are waiting to hear more about Ottawa's plan for artificial intelligence. CBC News has exclusively obtained a draft of the federal government's AI strategy, which is expected to be released this week. It includes new laws to protect Canadians against the risks of AI. In Mexico, human rights groups are raising concerns about their government's use of AI. As the CBC's Jorge Barrera reports, there are fears the law is being used against journalists and political activists.
It means that artificial intelligence can now be added to sort of the big tool set that is used to limit freedom of expression.
Jan Albert Hudson is Mexico representative for the Committee to Protect Journalists. He says a new artificial intelligence law adopted by the state of San Luis Potosi is a new threat in a country where journalism remains a dangerous occupation.
Purposefully, in our opinion, vague. It can easily be used as a tool by repressive state governments, municipal governments.
A mother and daughter were arrested for creating, quote, simulated content that harmed the, quote, public reputation of an unidentified victim. The two were linked to a Facebook page called the San Huicho Times, which posts AI-manipulated memes critical of the San Luis Potosi government.
Es muy curioso la rapidez.
Luis Gonzalez Lozano is a San Luis Potosi lawyer. He said the state government rushed the AI law through with little input before it was adopted in mid-November. They created a crime to provide excessive protection for public officials, says Gonzalez. He is part of a group that submitted a complaint with Mexico's Human Rights Commission. They argued the law could be used to target everything from political memes to journalists using AI to protect sources. The commission filed a complaint against the law with Mexico's Supreme Court on constitutional grounds. The court could take a year to make a ruling. Jorge Barrera, CBC News, Mexico City.
We're waiting for police to give more details about a deadly shooting in Pelican Narrows, Saskatchewan. One person was killed, another was hurt. The gunman was arrested after an hours-long active shooter alert. Officers had been looking for a man dressed in black with his face covered. The Cree Nation community is a 5-hour drive north of Saskatoon. The band says schools and some services in Pelican Narrows will be closed the rest of the week. There is a push in Quebec to ban the sale of energy drinks to minors. The measure is spurred by the tragic death of a teen 2 years ago and would make it the first law of its kind in Canada. But not everyone is on board with the plan. Alison McCormick explains why.
I just have one first period so I don't sleep through it.
Alexi Tower gets a boost of caffeine from her energy drink each morning to keep her alert throughout the school day. The grade 12 student in Fredericton says the drinks are a popular choice.
Everyone in class drinks them. There's at least 10 people in my class this morning drinking them.
But a movement in Quebec is aimed at curbing access to young people following the death of a 15-year-old. 2 years ago, Zachary Miron died after consuming a single energy drink with his prescribed ADHD medication. Last month, the Quebec Order of Pharmacists recommended stores remove energy drinks. President Jean-François Desgagnés says the evidence is clear.
ADHD drugs are stimulant. They can increase the heartbeat and the blood pressure. It's the same thing with the caffeine. And when those two things combine, it can be very harmful.
Family Prix quickly removed the drinks from all of its 455 pharmacies in Quebec and New Brunswick. Jean-Christophe Caron is the company's vice president of marketing.
And we've seen in different provinces up to 24% of teenagers taking medication for ADHD. So that's a very high number.
The Canadian Beverage Association says energy drinks shouldn't be singled out when there are multiple caffeine sources available and more evidence-based discussion is needed. The New Brunswick College of Pharmacists says it supports the move. Doctors Nova Scotia has been championing a similar youth ban for more than a decade. Alison McCormick, CBC News, Fredericton.
That is the latest national and international news from World Report. For news anytime, go to cbcnews.ca. I'm Martina Fitzgerald. This is CBC News.
Good morning, everyone. Well, you can feel that humidity and stickiness in the air. It's hot out there. It's already 19 degrees in Winnipeg. Now, we are expecting this to break with a thunderstorm, but not until late in the day and overnight. Thanks for joining us. The rain's going to come to the western part of the province before that today. I'm Marcy Marcusa. We're live in downtown Winnipeg, and you are on CBC Manitoba's Information Radio on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. Well, we're certainly in the season now for active commuting. For those of you who don't do it year-round, you might be pulling out the scooters or the e-bikes. This half hour on the show, we're going to be talking about Ontario and what they're looking at there. They're looking at implementing new legislation around e-bikes. Some riders would have to get a license and insurance to operate these types of bikes on the road. Manitoba's transportation minister has told us her government recently introduced a bill here that will also look at some changes to those modes of transportation. So we'll get some reaction to that. Stay tuned. Right now, let's go to Heather Wells, who has other developments and stories making news on this Tuesday, June 2nd. Hi, Heather.
Good morning. Well, some Brandon police officers are now wearing body cameras while on patrol. Professor Christopher Schneider at Brandon University has studied the use of these cameras. He says evidence is inconsistent, and because of privacy rules, the footage, he says, from the cameras is typically not shared publicly. So we'll hear more from him. And a proposed expansion of a wind farm near St. Leon has some people in that area worried for the future of their community. We'll tell you why coming up in our next local news at 8:30.
All right, thanks, Heather. Thanks. Abby, what's the good news?
It's warming up, Marcy. That's what I'll tell you. Most of the regions warming up across the province. We're already seeing a mix of sun and clouds and mixed conditions. The heat warnings still in effect across the northern regions, spanning all the way from the power flame towards Churchill, towards Thompson this morning. Here in Winnipeg, it is already 21 degrees, and we're expecting more sunny conditions that will be warming things up as we aim for that high of 29 later. We will notice some clouds roll in. There's a risk of thunderstorms in the afternoon, some showers, but that's not going to be warming things up. It's going to make things really feel, not cooling things off rather, it's going to make things feel humid through the day with just mild winds coming from the south, so look out for that. Similar conditions we're seeing across the southern regions. We're seeing 15s to 21s from the Pembina Valley region all the way to the Parkland region. Then if you're heading to the north, active weather there, heat warnings, and of course sunny skies and foggy conditions towards Churchill this morning. Most of the regions will crawl close to 30 degrees, and the humidex will be around 33, 34, 35. But for the Churchill region, we're still seeing temperatures just pegged at 3 degrees right now, and Tudor Lake is at 5. Winnipeg, we are aiming for 29 today. Right now, it's 21, and it might change to 22 in the next few minutes.
All right, water the plants, people. Let's get into what's happening in the morning commute with Corey Funk.
Yes, got a call from Jen. She said that on westbound Panet and Regent there, right when you're kind of turning from Regent on to westbound Panet, very, very backed up right now because of that big opening at Princess Auto happening this morning. Big event, lots of people have been lined up for that. So very slow going on westbound Panet this morning as well. Got another call on the commuter line about northbound Waverly. Stalled car was blocking the lane just past McGilvery, and there was already construction happening. So for a while it was totally blocked, but they moved that car to the side, but it's still pretty slow going there. But if you see anything else going on, you can give us a call on the CBC commuter line. That number, whether you're walking, biking, driving, let me know what you're seeing out there. 204-788-3093.
All right. Well, as I've just mentioned, and as you might have heard in our CBC National News, Ontario is looking at implementing this new legislation around e-bikes. So some riders there, just to say it again, would have to get a license and insurance to operate these types of bikes on the road. They're also looking at reclassifying some of the vehicles. Now, Manitoba's transportation minister here is Lisa Naylor. She tells CBC her government recently introduced Bill 43, the Highway Traffic Amendment and Drivers and Vehicles Amendment Act. In an email to CBC, she said, quote, the bill classifies e-bikes as a type of personal electric vehicle. It allows us to define them by differing classes and to set conditions, restrictions, or prohibitions on their operation, including where they may be used, end quote. So this proposed bill in Manitoba would set the age limit for power-assisted bicycles to 14 years old, and then for other personal electric vehicles to 16 years old. The speed limit for personal electric vehicles and e-bikes, because if they reclassify e-bikes, that's what they're going to be calling them under the law, would be 25 kilometers per hour for the speed limit. They would be prohibited from operating on highways with speed limits over 50 kilometers per hour. I'm using the word highway, but of course we have some streets in Winnipeg over 50K. Now that speed limit doesn't apply to power-assisted bikes. Regarding parking, they'd be allowed to park on sidewalks, but only if authorized to do so by the traffic authorities. So there'd be signage, presumably, saying where the vehicle could park, personal assisted vehicle or the e-bike. We requested an interview with the minister. We are awaiting a response. She may be available to us later today, we're hoping. We do have Patty Weens here, though, this morning. She owns and rides an electric bike, and she also cycles year-round. She calls herself Winnipeg's first bike mayor, and she's in studio. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. Good. So that's a lot to absorb, I know. But I just want to pull us back to what it's like to ride an e-bike. For people that have never ridden one, Patty, when you're out there, do you ever wish for more legislation, or is it something you were hoping for more rules, or what's it like?
I would love more legislation because, I follow the rules. And right now, federally, they are restricted to 32 kilometers an hour for a legal, what we call currently a legal e-bike. And I rarely hit those speeds, but sometimes in winter, the paths are clear, and I use my e-bike mostly in winter. So I can go super fast on the paths as long as there's no pedestrians or other cyclists, but I'm still passed by other, electric vehicles that are like, they look like electric motorcycles almost, and they are zooming by without ringing a bell, and they're kind of sometimes reckless, and sometimes I see children riding them. So yeah, it would be really great to get more legislation starting with the buying power, right? To be able to just only buy certain kinds of e-bikes.
Now, it's interesting because for people to understand, a power-assisted bike is sort of like a normal bike with a little boost.
That's right.
Corey drew me a diagram to understand this. An e-bike is a little bit is faster, has capability to go faster. How fast can yours go top speed?
Top speed is 32 because that's what's legislated federally right now.
If you could give her though, like
if I could,
physically,
but can't. It's hard to get that fast. Actually.
Okay, so it won't actually go much past that anyway. And a personal electric vehicle is something that is more enhanced, or they even have unicycles, scooters. They can go much faster. Is that the kinds of things you're seeing that are zipping around?
They shouldn't, but they are able to.
They're capable of it.
Yes,
that's
exactly.
What I should be
you
saying.
can unlock the app to go faster. Yeah.
Okay. So when you hear about things like legislation that would look at speed limits, do you have a sense of where you'd like those to be set?
Well, I think that 32 is fine.
Mm-hmm.
25 is fine too.
Yeah.
I think that most importantly is the respect that we give each other on these paths, especially the ones that are shared, to be able, even if I'm going 25, that's way too fast to pass a pedestrian or someone walking a dog. So respect for each other on these paths is more important than setting a speed, because how are you going to enforce these speeds? That's the thing that I really worry about, is how are you actually going to do it.
How common are e-bikes now in Winnipeg? Or do you see a lot more of them out there?
It's insane. In fact, a friend of mine who owns a bike shop saying they're flying off the shelves, especially with the price of gas right now and people wanting an alternative to driving. People are sick and tired of being stuck in traffic. And an e-bike, you have to understand, is not a bike replacement. It is a car replacement. When I started realizing that I could ride my bike year-round because I had an e-bike and didn't have to worry about the wind or the state of the roads or the paths, then I sold my car. And that is something people are actually looking at in this day where everything is so unaffordable.
In terms of what Ontario's put in, they're saying you have to get a license and insurance to operate these types of bikes on the road. Is that something you would welcome?
Yeah, sure. These things that are, currently really illegal, they're going way too fast, and people of all ages are riding them without a lot of regulation. I would love to see more enforcement and just regulation in general.
Have you ever been involved in or witnessed like a close call? You're talking about when people are going by, pedestrians, for example, people are walking their dogs, the mix of people?
Yeah, I've seen close calls on bikes, but I've seen a lot more close calls with, cars. So
yeah. When you look at, I know that one of your perspectives is that e-bikes should not be allowed on sidewalks. Is that right?
Which e-bikes are we talking about? Because the ones I have, sometimes I have to take the sidewalk because I have no option. I don't have a bike lane, and my option is going to be, being on Portage Avenue with traffic or go on the sidewalk for a couple of blocks. But, again, respect. And these higher speed ones shouldn't even be on bike paths, to be quite honest with you.
Okay, so the ones that are like a level up, the personal electric vehicles, if we're talking about mopeds and such, that's what you believe shouldn't be?
Should not be, especially on shared paths. And if they're going to be on a dedicated bike lane, then we need a little bit more respect with other cyclists who can't go as fast.
How much would licensing help with that? Like teaching rules of road and respect with all these multiple different vehicles we have now?
Sometimes people drive cars without licenses. It's hard to enforce.
Yeah.
So enforcement is a real big issue. We can't even enforce the problems that we have on cruise night. We can't enforce, like the amount of drivers on their cell phones right now. I can tell you as a cyclist, every time I stop at a red light, there's a man or a woman in a car on their cell phones. So how can we really regulate these things? It comes to education, respect, and knowing that we're going to all have to share this space.
You talked about age. What concerns do you have about what you've seen in terms of the ages of people operating these different?
I've seen children, I'm talking 8-year-olds on fast scooters, on fast e-bikes. That is unacceptable. It's way too much speed for someone that age who could lose control and, injure themselves or each other. It's kind of really crazy right now.
Because they have this proposed bill already, because they have this bill right now in Manitoba that we're learning more about. I'm curious whether or not, as somebody who's been heavily involved, whether or not you've been consulted around it or talked to, have they asked for your input on it?
Oh, no. No, I have not.
What would you like them to know about, what's important when they're crafting this? It's probably just reiterating what you were...
Oh my gosh, I would love to talk to Minister Naylor about the Highway Traffic Act. I would love to be consulted because there's a lot of things we would like. Yes, regulation on e-bikes. Should not go past, 32 kilometers an hour, should not be allowed. The ones that do should not be allowed on pass. But then again, let's do more enforcement of vehicle, like cars speeds, open the Traffic Act to allow for more speed traps in all kinds of locations. In Brazil, a developing country, they can tell if you're on your cell phone, you get a fine on a speed trap. If you're not using a seatbelt. So we're really behind the times when it comes to this kind of automated enforcement, which then frees up the human enforcement for things to protect, like cyclists on bike paths, pedestrians, all that stuff.
Thanks for coming in, Patty. Always good to have you on these topics. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Patty Weens rides her electric bike, and obviously year-round, as she mentioned. Also Winnipeg's first bike mayor. CBC has requested an interview with Manitoba's Transportation Minister, Lisa Naylor, as I mentioned. And we did read that emailed response that we were provided, but we are still awaiting to see if she's going to be available to be on one of our shows today.
On the topics that matter, your voice should be heard.
It looks like this is maybe a one-day blip when farmers across the province need hot and dry.
Radio Noon is where you can voice your take.
In general, it's harder to find a job even if you're educated.
I'm Marjorie Dowhouse. From 12:15 to 1 p.m., Radio Noon opens the phone lines on one important topic.
When I was 5 or 6, my parents gave me seeds and helped me plant them. That was probably close to 70 years ago. And here I am still gardening.
It just brings everyone together. Radio Noon's call-in segment, 204-780-0893. We want to hear from you weekdays on CBC.
8:24 a.m. on CBC. I'm Marcy Marcusa with our team here at the show. Little music now from Carly Dow on a bright, sunny downtown morning. This is called Sunlight Remembers.
Leave the glasses on the table. I'll do the dishes later while you recede in the skyline. Climb hills to get home. Sunlight remembers
Charlie Dow, and with us this morning, originally from Winnipeg, singing for us with Sunlight Remembers. Nice tune, right? Feels like a hot weather tune. We're all on that slower mode now that it's hot out there. It's sticky as we expect rain late today and into tonight. All right, let's get into what's happening on Radio Noon's Colin, which starts at 12:15 this afternoon. And host Marjorie Dalhouse is in to tell us the topic. Good morning.
Well, good morning, Marcy. Maybe not light and easy. We're talking about geese. Yes, we see lots of them here in Manitoba. They're out in full force if you've been outside. We're going to ask you, though, have geese gotten a bad reputation? I know some people like them. Some people don't like them at all. And what's interesting is we actually have a specific subspecies of geese here in Manitoba. Yeah, so we're going to learn more about geese. We want you to weigh in, though. Share your stories about geese coming up on Radio Noon.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, Marcy.
Marjorie Dalhouse talking about the Colin today. Starts at 12:15 right here on 89.3. Let's thank the folks that worked on today's show. Associate producers with work in the program, Stu Smoley, Sierra Sanders, Sophia Peralta-Barone, as well as producer Robin Summerfield. From our news department, Heather Wells, Megan Ketcherson, Joni Nicolo, and Darren Bernhardt. From our Studio 15 crew, or on our crew, Corey Funk, Abby Adiemi, and Darren Marash. And producers Donna Carrero and Nellie Gonzalez, in charge of all things this week. Thanks, everybody, for the programming this morning and for your work as well live on the show. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Remember, it's late in the commute, but if you do see anything urgent, you can still call Corey. We'll pass it out along 788-3093, and we will get to that after your CBC News for Manitoba.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 8:30, it's already 21 degrees, beautiful sunny sky. It's going to get a little steamy today, a high of 29, a bit of a breeze, and increasing clouds with a good chance of showers, maybe even a thunderstorm later this afternoon. The Brandon Police Service rolls out body-worn cameras this week, but a professor questions whether they should adopt them. Christopher Schneider at Brandon University has studied the use of these police cameras. He says they have largely been rolled out based on the assumption people would change their behavior if a camera is involved. Schneider adds because of privacy rules, the footage from those cameras is typically not shared publicly.
Just because everyone else is doing it doesn't mean that we should do it. And by that, I mean the research literature, the evidence on body-worn cameras is inconsistent. So it's not very clear if they are going to work, whatever that may or may not mean, for Brandonites.
12 of the cameras are being rolled out on officers today with a goal of 65 by the end of this year. In January, Brandon Police estimated the cameras would cost around $400,000. Well, hundreds of people in Winnipeg waited hours for this. This morning's chain cutting of the brand new Princess Auto on Panet Road. The first person lined up at 8 last night. This opening comes just days after the city gave the street an honorary name, Princess Auto Way. This new store is the largest of the Winnipeg-based company's 55 stores across Canada. Heather Turnbull-Smith is with Princess Auto.
Many of our customers started off because their dad or their grandpa brought them in here into a Princess Auto store when they were a kid. They were working on something, building something together.
The new store includes workshops where people can use the company's space and equipment to build projects. It is licensed and has a food court. Turnbull-Smith calls it a pilot for future stores. A company wanting to expand a wind farm near St. Leon wants to talk to people in the area in a town hall tomorrow. Swan Lake Wind is a partnership between Swan Lake First Nation and Vancouver-based Interjex. It wants to put up 30 to 35 more wind turbines in the area, each about 120 meters tall. The project is getting pushback from the community. Some worry it will hurt the landscape and the environment. But Interjex's Adeline Thames says it's working with the community to create the best possible plan.
That wind is already there. It's flowing rapidly. And so if landowners, municipalities, local First Nations can generate some economic opportunities from that power, then that's a great opportunity.
The project is part of a Manitoba Hydro call for 200 megawatts worth of Indigenous-led projects. Tomorrow night's town hall is in Somerset. Brooke Kindle's family of 5 has moved 5 times since losing their home in Denair Beach last summer. Today marks 1 year since wildfire destroyed more than 200 homes in that community just west of Flin Flon. The Kindles are back in Denair Beach now, living in a camper trailer parked in a garage they built over the weekend. Brooke Kindle says the area is a flurry of activity as people start to rebuild.
Every time you look outside, there's cement trucks, delivery trucks. It's really exciting to be in that place. It's a bit hard when you're not one of the people that's going to be getting a home soon. But we also, at least we were able to pull off building the shop.
The community is marking this wildfire anniversary with students who used to or still live in Denair Beach planting trees. To Edmonton.
The final whistle goes. It's victory for Canada in the rain in Edmonton.
The Canadian men's soccer team beating Uzbekistan last night in a friendly game at Commonwealth Stadium. The final was 2-0. It is one of 2 Canadian pre-games ahead of the FIFA World Cup. Team Canada plays its opening game at the World Cup June 12th in Toronto against Bosnia. And it may feel like we're in the throes of summer already, but there's still hockey to be played. The Stanley Cup Finals begin tonight. The Vegas Golden Knights playing the Carolina Hurricanes for the biggest prize in hockey. Game 1 starts at 7 Central. Carolina is favored to win the Cup this year after 12 wins and just 1 loss during the playoffs. You can find the latest news updated throughout the day. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right. Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
And let's have a last look at the morning commute. Corey's got something written down, so there's something that came up.
Yes, Matt called the commuter line westbound North Perimeter approaching Pipeline Road. Really backed up right now. He couldn't say why, but just pretty slow going overall. Also, Panet Road, Jen says when you kind of turn westbound Panet kind of from Regent there and Panet, both pretty slow because of that opening Princess Auto. Lots of people want to go there today. Other than that, though, that's been the bulk of the issue out there, besides, of course, earlier that goat and those 3 horses on the highway that I can't get over on Highway
8. Why can't you get over it?
It's just funny.
Because they're all together?
If it was 3 horses, it wouldn't be as much of a thing, but the goat apparently is like just hanging out with the 3 horses.
They're pretty social, though, aren't they? Abby had a goat growing up.
Yeah, I think they're just trying to go check on all the, animals on the next farm.
They're
not bothering anybody.
The goat and the horses are buddies. I love it.
Can your friends come out to play?
You're right.
Abby, speaking of which, what's going on with the weather?
Well, the heat is the main headline, stretching from the Par Flin Flon towards the Churchill Thompson area this morning. It's going to subside as we get into the day, but we'll be seeing highs close to 30 degrees and even beyond in that part of the province. But down south, most of the regions will crawl close to 29 degrees, and with the humidex factored in, it's going to be around 35, 36. So take it easy. It's going to be a muggy one with the rain coming and that risk of thunderstorms.
All right. Thanks, Abby. Take care, everybody. Thanks for listening this morning to Information Radio and our team. We are back again tomorrow with another edition of the show, and we hope you tune in then. The Current is coming up next, and then your next local programming is Marjorie Dalhouse in Radio Noon, and then Chloe Friesen, who's guest hosting Up to Speed between 3 and 6 this afternoon. Have a good one.